Hello everyone, and welcome back to Fleet's Random Ramblings. Yeah, so normal service resumes. Hopefully. I mean, I can't promise anything, but we're going to try and do the best we can. We're going to see how many, Hello everyone, and welcome
Whoops,
back
that's
to
me.
Fleet's Random Ramblings. Yeah, so normal service... That's me. Whoops-a-daisy. But yeah, so we're going to try and see how many questions there are in the backlog. I don't think there's too many. I did dig into Powder Monkey myself, and there weren't too many. Yeah, there's not too many. So the first set of YouTube questions will be the catch-up question, because yeah, there's not that many there. So yeah, and they are the only catch-up questions that we've got, since only YouTube questions were considered for catch-up questions this week. So we should be able to work through them fairly easily. But it looks like it's going to be a fairly quiet ramblings today, because obviously Dr. Clark has a lot of my regular audience watching the Historiathon. But to be fair, that's fine. It means I can work through things fairly quick. I had a good weekend, thank you, Brandon. Well, I don't have weekends. Well, sometimes I do. It's weird. Look, work's weird, okay? Yeah, it's a long story. Right, okay. And you know what? I'll bang another Twitter post out there saying that we've actually gone live. That's a good idea, lads, don't you think? And let me just... Hopefully everything should be working. I'm just going to test the bot. Let's see if the bot's working. Alright, bot. Let's see if you want to work. Hey! It works. Good. Very good. Right. Okay. So, I'm just going to bang another... I'm still getting the hang of this whole YouTuber, business. I'll get the hang of it eventually. Right. So, I don't know if there are any Patreon questions this week. I will just check. Probably will be. Either Brackman or Timu is quite good. Give me... Holy shit! Bloody hell, Brackman. Jesus H. Tap dancing Christ on a sledgehammer. Jesus. Right. Okay. This isn't... Brackman, I'm looking at this question here on Patreon, and... I'm looking for the question. I don't see it. Like, I see what's happened, but I don't know the question. Like, I guess the question is what happens after that, I would assume. I would guess. Yes, there. There it is. Yeah, there's the final bit of context I didn't have. Right, okay, so as per normal, we will add this to the question pile as the first question of this week, and oh dear god, I am glad I have Nitro, because bloody hell, if I even bloody hell, it's gonna have to go. It's gonna have to go in here as like a text document. It's that fucking long. It's that long. Oh my god. Right. Okay. Deep breath, Fleet. Here we go. Brackman on Patreon asks, displeased by the Royal Navy's centuries of dominance, Neptune, Lord of the Seas, enacted divine retribution during the Battle of Jutland. Every British ship was replaced by another vessel of the same name, drawn from any age of steam, sail, or steel. Some became ancient with leviathans, others modern metal predators. The god cared nothing for chronology, only for the names that had long defied him. Battleships. 2nd Battle Squadron Battleships, Vice Admiral Sir Thomas Martin Jerram. 1st Division, Vice Admiral Jerram. HMS King George V, flagship. Command... I am not going to... God. Alright. To the flagship, Captain Frederick Field, replaced by HMS King George V, 1941. HMS Ajax, Captain George Henry Baird, replaced by HMS Ajax. HMS Centurion, Captain Michael Colm Sr., replaced by HMS Centurion, 1732. HMS Erin, Captain Honourable Victor Stanley, replaced by HMS Erin, so I guess she hasn't changed. Second Division, Rear Admiral Arthur Leveson. HMS Orion, flagship, Captain Oliver Backhouse, replaced by HMS Orion, 1858. HMS Monarch, Captain George Borrett, replaced by HMS Monarch, 1868. HMS Conqueror, Captain Hugh Tothill, replaced by HMS Conqueror, 1773. HMS Thunderer, Captain James Ferguson, replaced by HMS Thunderer, 1783. Fleet Flagship, HMS Iron Duke, Captain Frederick Charles Dare, replaced by HMS Iron Duke, F234. 4th Battle Squadron, Battleships, Vice Admiral Sir Frederick Charles Dovetail Sturdy, 1st Baronet. 3rd Division, Rear Admiral Alexander Duff. HMS Royal Oak, Captain Crawford McLachlan, replaced by HMS Royal Oak, 1892. HMS Superb, flagship, Captain Edmund Hyde Parker, replaced by HMS Superb, S109. HMS Captain William Nicholson, replaced by HMS Canada, 1765. 4th Division, Vice Admiral Sturdy. HMS Benbow, flagship, Captain Henry Parker Wise, replaced by HMS Benbow, 1813. HMS Bellerophon, Captain Edward Francis Bruin, replaced by HMS Bellerophon, 1865. HMS I can never say that. Temeraire, Captain Edward Veal Underhill, replaced by HMS Temeraire, 1798. HMS Vanguard, Captain James Douglas Dick, replaced by replaced by HMS Vanguard, 1678. 1st Battle Squadron, Battleships, Admiral Sir Cecil Burney, Chief of Staff Commodore Percy Grant. 5th Division, Rear Admiral Ernest Gaunt. HMS Colossus, flagship, Captain Dudley Pound, replaced by HMS Colossus, 1787. HMS Collingwood, Captain James Clement Lee, replaced by HMS Collingwood, 1841. HMS St. Vincent, Captain William Wordsworth Fisher, replaced by HMS St. Vincent, 1815. HMS Neptune, Captain Vivian Bernard, replaced by HMS Neptune, 1863. 6th Division, Vice Admiral Burney. HMS Marlborough, flagship, Captain George Parish Ross, replaced by HMS Marlborough, F233. HMS Revenge, Captain Edward Buxton Keedle, replaced by HMS Revenge, 1805. HMS Hercules, Captain Lewis Clinton Baker, replaced by HMS Hercules, 1759. HMS Agincourt, Captain Henry Morgenthau Dowie, replaced by HMS Agincourt, 1817. 3rd Battlecruiser Squadron, Rear Admiral the Honourable Horace Hood, KIA. Battlecruisers, carriers now apparently. HMS Invincible, flagship, Captain Arthur Lindsay Kay, replaced by HMS Invincible R05. HMS Inflexible, Captain Edward Heaton Ellis, replaced by HMS Inflexible 1876. Oh my god. HMS Indomitable, Captain Francis William Kennedy, replaced by HMS Indomitable 92. Which I assume is 1992. Which... I'm gonna have to... Yeah, there's gonna have to be words asked. Battle Cruisers, HMS Lion, flagship, Captain Ernell Chatfield, replaced by HMS Lion, 1777. 1st Battlecruiser Squadron, Rear Admiral Osmond Bock on Princess Royal. Princess Royal, flagship, Captain Walter Cowan, replaced by Princess Royal, 1773. HMS Queen Mary, Captain Cecil Prowse, replaced by HMS Queen Mary, so I guess she's still the same ship. Okay, fine. HMS Tiger, Captain Henry Bertram Pelly, replaced by Tiger, 1546. 2nd Battle Cruiser Squadron, Rear Admiral William Pakenham. HMS New Zealand, Captain John Green, replaced by HMS New Zealand, 1904. HMS Indefatigable, Captain Charles Fitzgerald Salby, replaced by HMS Indefatigable R10. 5th Battle Squadron, Rear Admiral Hugh Evan Thomas. Battleships, HMS Barham, flagship, Captain Arthur William Craig, replaced by HMS Barham, 1811. HMS Valiant, Captain Morris Woolcombe, replaced by HMS Valiant, 1759. HMS Warspite, Captain Edward Montgomery Philpotts, replaced by HMS Warspite, 1758. HMS Malaya, Captain the Honourable Algernon Boyle, replaced by HMS Malaya, which is apparently no change. And breathe! Okay. Did you all get all that? Jesus. That's the longest question we've ever had. Alright. after rattling off all of that, well, assuming that the Royal Navy knows how to operate these ships, the German fleet is fundamentally fucked. Because you've got at least 3 Invincible-class aircraft carriers in there. And if they're post-Falklands, they'll have Sea Harrier with anti-ship missiles. Which renders... And they'll also have airborne early warning. Which renders the fact that, yes, we have how a lot of the fleet is now rolling around in ironclads and ships of the line, a moot point. You've just thrown 3 modern aircraft carriers with jet aircraft, modern radar. Oh, and there's also a few modern frigates in there as well. Yeah, you've basically made the High Seas Fleet a dead entity. Like, the rest of it is fundamental. Yeah, HMS Iron Duke is a Type 23 frigate. She carries Harpoon. like, the rest of it is fundamentally irrelevant. Well, why is Indomitable 92 then? Because you said 1992. Yeah, this is the thing. Also, if you are going to have, like, a period in brackets, could you please keep it consistent? Like, if you're going to have it listed by year, then list it by year. If you're going to have it listed by designation or hull number, then list it by designation or hull number. Because for most of them, it is the year of construction. But some ships, like King George V, has just 41 rather than 1941. Iron Duke is referred to by her frigate designation rather than by the year she's commissioned, whereas everything else is listed by commissioning year. It's a little bit confusing. But yeah, even so, I mean, this makes it honestly even worse. Like, if you've got Indomitable coming in, as well as the 2 Illustriouses, sorry, as well as the 2 Invincibles, like, that's, yeah. Like, the Sea Harriers can clear the way for Indomitable's aircraft to go in and finish the job with torpedoes. Like, with the Sea Harriers cannon, they could honestly do strafing runs on bloody destroyers of the period and probably send them to the bottom. Aiden cannon are no fucking joke. Can I repeat the question? No, I cannot repeat the question. I will post the question for you to read. It's in stream Q&A, but I will send it to you again, Moe. But I will not repeat the question. It took me 5 minutes to say it one bloody time. I will not be repeating myself. Here. There it is. It's also in stream Q&A log as well, but Jiminy Christmas, that was a long one. Oh my god. Oh my god. Ugh. Yeah, the problem is, as soon as you brought any modernity into this, like, at all, yeah, oh yeah, and one of them, oh, and you know, there's just the casual, you know, minor thing. The HMS Superb is also here. A nuclear-powered attack submarine. Like, yeah, no, like, yeah, like, Superb by herself could probably sink the entire High Seas Fleet just with traditional torpedoes. She doesn't even need a wide-guided heavyweights. Anyone else? Anything they want to add to this? But I think the fact we've got superb 2 Invincible class carriers with their full complements of Sea Harriers, along with airborne early warning and, a Type 23 frigate with Harpoon, kind of seals the High Seas Fleet's fate.
I'm just trying to figure out what was the goal of asking this question.
How the battle would go.
No offense, but it should be pretty self-evident.
Even with all of the ships of the line and ironclads replacing a lot of the dreadnoughts, it doesn't matter. Oh, of course, if you do want some more modern firepower, King George V of the World War II King George V is there if you want that. Yeah, it's...
A reminder that King George V probably could sink most of the High Seas Fleet by itself.
And that's without a World War II era carrier, which is Indomitable, and then of course, a nuclear submarine, and a Type 23 frigate, and the 2 Invincible class carriers.
Because if the KGVs are tied for the best battleship ever built, which is disputed with the Yamato, because we know from recurrent armor plate, Yamato had pretty poor quality armor plate compared to the P.
Yeah, it's why they had to go so
compared
thick
to the
with
KGVs.
It's why they had to go so thick.
Yes, and the fact that because it's so thick, it's debatable whether it was actually solid in its core.
Yeah.
But the fact is, KGV herself is pretty much invulnerable to the 11, 12, and 13.4 inch of the Germans. Unless she's at knife fighting range.
Yeah, and she won't be. She doesn't need to be. Well, she can be at knife fighting range for her, which is normal battle range for World War I.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just...
And she carries the ammo.
Yeah, and most importantly, like, she can basically act as a distraction, look at me, and be feeding targeting data to the Harriers, Indomitable, and the Harpoon missiles aboard Iron Duke.
Because this is the fort where what year is this KGV from?
41.
So they've got the quad turrets working.
Yeah.
If it was 40, you could say maybe quads aren't working. But 41 they are.
To be fair, even with just a twin turret, that thing isn't going to be having any issues.
Like, if it was just... Yeah, it's...
Yeah, but as part of way, you'll need at least one of the quad turrets working for salvo fire.
Yeah.
To hit accurately enough to have good ammo economy. Honestly, that's just entire this fight. How good's the fast battleships and carriers ammo economy?
I mean, to be fair, the Invincibles by themselves can do it. They carry enough bombs and ordnance, even without guided ordnance, for the Harriers to do the job. The Harriers are fundamentally unkillable.
It very much depends on the period.
I mean, even just bombs for ground attack work, it really doesn't matter. Like,
it kind of does.
These ships are not
it
armored
does
to
a little
resist.
bit, but to be fair, the primary thing is the fact that you're unlikely going to have any German ships shooting back at the Harriers.
Yeah, and also, politely, you've also got the thing that even if they can't deliver the killing blow, they can definitely clear away any form of resistance so that Indomitable's aircraft can come in, and she will have the weapons load to do it. And she can send like a single Avenger after each crippled ship to send it to the bottom with a torpedo.
Mission killing things seems pretty easy with the selection of ships you have.
It's still, with the size of the High Seas Fleet at this point, it's still a game of ammo economy.
We have enough ammo economy amongst the modern ships that we have to deal with them.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the specific parts that are actually worth talking about, because putting a modern frigate or destroyer in this is just... Okay, maybe have them go fight the Spanish Armada next, it'll be the same effect.
And the modern nuclear submarine is just game over. How much superb being there makes the whole thing moot. It's basically, does she have enough torpedoes for every single ship?
Yeah, there's no.
I don't think she does.
I mean,
The answer's no.
no.
It will hurt the battle line.
She has harpoon as well for some of the cruisers if she wants to use it. But yeah, either way, Sea Skua,
Subs
isn't it?
just have ammo economy.
Sea Skua was the Sea Skua was the missile that the Harrier carried, wasn't it? Sea Harrier carried.
Yes, but in very limited numbers.
Was it? Was it the one? I don't think it is actually. Hang on.
Because I know that by the time she's carrying Harriers, the Harriers have shifted loadout for ground attack.
Oh
Being
no,
more-
sorry,
more
it's Sea
rocket
Eagle.
pod-centric.
Sorry, no, it's not. It's Sea Eagle. Sorry, it's not Sea Skua. It's Sea Eagle. I knew the shape wasn't right.
HMS New Zealand. That's gonna be funny.
Yeah. Sea Eagle. They're carrying Sea Eagle. Well, for what they've got. Yeah, I think we've done this question justice. Basically, High Seas Fleet gets... The Royal Navy's like, oh, we've lost the bulk of the fleet, which is a little bit annoying. But then they kind of go, oh, we've also gained enough firepower to easily smash the High Seas Fleet, and also the sensors to find it. Launch the Crow's Nest.
How do you have to give them access to nuclear weapons?
With what is carrying nuclear weapons?
That SSN.
No, she's not.
She's from the generation where they were carrying nuke tops.
No, she's not. The Royal
Okay.
Navy, as far as I'm aware, never fielded a nuclear warheaded torpedo. The Soviets did, the Americans did. I don't think the
That's where
RN
they
ever did. As far as I'm aware,
they did,
they
but-
didn't. But
Okay.
we can look into that later. Like you're not sure, I'm not sure. We can look into that later. We'll file that under maybe. Right, let's go. So we'll start with YouTube first because we've got last week's questions to deal with. There aren't that many, so I've just decided to bulk them into this week's. So we should be fine. Oh, hang on, it's a two-parter. There we go. 96831 on YouTube asks, if the RAF got 119 Victor bombers, 49 Victor tankers, 9 Victor spy planes, which is a weird way to have a spy plane, but okay, 163 Vulcan bombers, 6 Vulcan tankers, why? 9 Vulcan maritime radar recon planes, why? 54 Valiant bombers, 11 Valiant bomber spy planes, why? 14 Valiant bomber spy plane tankers, why? And 44 Valiant bomber tankers, would that be better than what the RAF historically got? No, because it's a massively bloated force that you just don't need. It's massively bloated, far beyond what the RAF needs or wants, and it's chewing up funding from other parts of the RAF. You don't need that many Vulcans and Victors in the bomber role. Never mind all of the extra variants you've added on. And I wouldn't want the Valiant number to be any bigger than the actual historical buy-in they got in, given Valiant was by far the least capable jet bomber the RAF had by a country mile and a half.
Really? You gotta give it some credit.
I mean, look, I didn't say it wasn't capable, but when you put it next to Vulcan or Victor, it kind of, yeah.
You can make an argument against Victor. Vulcan, when they were designed, Vulcan was shite. Vulcan just got a new lease of life when they're in service. Because of the proliferation of the surface-to-air missile
Yeah.
and lockdown shoot-down radar.
Yeah. No, it's not. To answer the question short and simply, no, it would not be. This much larger force would not be better than what the RAF historically got. The V-Bomber force was a numerous force, pretty much. It wasn't that low in numbers, I don't think. Let's have a look. How many did they procure historically? 86. Okay, so we procured 86 Victors. How many Vulcans did we produce? 136, including prototypes. Yes, that's fine. Yeah, okay, so we've got a decent number of Vulcans and Victors. Yeah, so we didn't actually... Yeah, no, I think this is... Yeah, I think this is a massively bloated force, far beyond what the RAF actually needs. Vulcan procurement already got into the triple digits, historically. The Victor was 86, which is fine, and they had a long career as both bombers and tankers, and they did very well in that role. And the conversion was actually fairly simple with Victor from bomber to tanker, and they were fairly reliable airframes. In terms of the Valiant, they procured 107. So this, yeah, the smaller Valiant fleet wouldn't be a bad thing.
Why are you acquiring
Yeah,
that many tankers?
yeah,
Why?
yeah. The biggest complaint with this is the menagerie of variants. They're just not needed. Like, if you want to procure things to do those jobs, procure platforms built to do those jobs.
More importantly, imagine having to try to provide escorts to to such a massive amount of bombers. I don't think the RAF had the tactical air wings to provide support to
They
this
didn't.
giant strategic wing.
They didn't, and having it is going to be chewing into the funding that already exists, because he's not provided extra money for this.
Maybe you might also see the cursed option.
What would be the curse option?
So, are you aware that the Royal Navy, the RAF, experimented with putting AMRAAMs and early forms of the Phoenixes and AM9s on the Vulcan airframe?
Yeah, they were considering a
Yep.
long-range interceptor based on the Vulcan.
They
Yeah,
carry, I think, 10 missiles total.
yeah, 10 Phoenixes. Yeah.
Yes, I'm not talking about the
That'd be funny.
interceptor based off the Vulcan. I'm talking about a dedicated protection Vulcan for the bomber screens. That was the bomber airframe.
Yeah.
And that was played around with. If you've got this many airframes, you'll probably see that happen.
Oh, that could cost them an arm and a leg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the thing.
It's also gonna be when it comes to air defense exercises in Norway.
Hmm.
Because a bomber shooting at you in the 70s.
Right. Okay. So yeah, basically, I think we're all in agreement though in regards to the actual, thing. This whole setup is not better than what the RAF historically got.
Parts of it are worse.
Right. Next question. Slayer from Discord asks a sort of a weird two-parter, but I'll allow it. Question: what would happen if Nagato and Mutsu are brought into dry dock, let's say 1934, for a refit? During this time, it is learned that with redesigned turrets, they can fit triples into the barbettes. By 1938, Nagato and Mutsu leave dry dock with 4 triples instead of 4 twins. Does this change up the Pacific Theater? If so, in what way? Do the Japanese use Nagato and Mutsu more than they did historically? I can easily answer the last part of that question
Yes.
now. No, they don't. The thing that keeps Nagato and Mutsu off the front lines is the same reason it keeps the other Japanese battleships off the front lines, including the Yamatos. Lack of speed isn't the problem. In fact, they're all plus 24 knot ships, all of them. And Nagato and Mutsu are breaking 26. The problem is the fact that the Japanese battle line is being preserved for actions against its US counterparts in open fleet engagements. The assets that are released to go and engage in the front prior to that decisive action are the ones that are supposed to be doing it, aka the Congos. It's not that the Congos are spared because they're the oldest, that's the role the Japanese have the Congos to do. It's why they're rebuilt in the way they are. Even if you've upgraded somehow by waving a magic wand, because you sure as heck ain't doing it any other way, Nagato Mutsu to carry triple 16s, which rather than twins, because you ain't doing it any other way, engineering wise.
Well, actually,
no, there is no way you can make the Nagatos carry triple 16-inch guns in their barbettes. It's not doable.
not with Japanese guns or a Japanese turret design.
I don't care
But
what...
the French made several very small breech profile 16-inch guns with a very long recoil strike instead of the relatively stocky wide one, and put it in a triple turret with an additional length recoil firing delay. Put it in a very or any other gun would be a very cramped turret. And that turret they experimented with had like an inch bigger turret ring than the Nagatos.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, Fox, I'm more thinking something different. The fact that the Japanese triple 16-inch turret they designed actually isn't that much bigger than the twin. Honestly, honestly, it would take some redesigning, but they could do it. It's not going to be fun for the gun crew, but it's doable.
I bring up the French one because the French turret was specifically designed for that size and would just be able to plop on.
Literally, just looking at the images of the turrets. If you move barrels from where they are further over to the side, so yes, you have parts of it being slightly weirder. Yeah, no, that's entirely doable to make it into a triple.
It's not just that though. You'd have to basically go into the barbette, the lifts, the hoists. You have to completely rearrange everything. Yes, you would. How are you gonna feed? How are you gonna feed 3 guns with 2 hoists?
How? Did you really just say that?
You could really ask the North Carolinas that late.
But they were designed for it. These ships aren't. That's the difference.
No, right, please. 2 hoists is actually the standard for triple turrets. In a lot of ships.
Again, yes,
In fact,
they
Iowas
are
an exception to the rule.
Yes, I know that. I am aware of that. The reason I said what I said is because, like I said, they are designed for that. The turrets are built with that in mind. In order to make that system work here, you'd have to either jury-rig it, which would... You could do it, but I'm not sure you'd want to. Or you could... Or you'd have to basically completely rework the magazines and the hoists to get it so that you have that whole smooth transfer that makes it possible to feed, as you do in North Carolina and other ships like her, the 3 guns with 2 hoists, as, you know, it is common practice. That's
you're going to have to do that anyway. Because you're adding about 1,000 tons to the turret. You're going to have to go down the barbette and strengthen everything and strengthen the decks around it anyway.
This is why I say it's not really practical to do.
So you're functionally rebuilding the barbette.
At this point, you're basically...
It's not as hard as it looks, though. The expensive
that's not the important
armor.
part. That's not the important part of the question. The question did state that they were designed the turret to do so let's just presume that they can.
Okay.
This point is irrelevant. Let's just go with the fact that they can do it. Should they? Probably not, but they did. Which will lead to Nagato Mutsu having 12 16-inch guns, which will change nothing.
Yeah,
in the course of history.
Yeah, like I said, it's the how heavily armed they are doesn't fundamentally matter.
It's the other half that creates a more interesting issue.
Yeah, it's so assuming the 14-inch ships also get this. So the Fusas and the Ises, it fundamentally doesn't matter. Again, they don't do much. But the Congos,
It is just the Congos.
yeah, but the Congos getting 12-14s. Now that is interesting. Assuming they also get the same upgrades they get IRL. That's enough firepower that it may it's an extra 3 barrels, so more hits on target. That may be enough firepower that South Dakota may be even more heavily damaged than historically before Washington obliterates Kirishima.
Problem is with doing this, actually, you probably just drop their speed.
We're assuming that everything else is as normal. We're not changing. We're thinking about that. Like, normally, if we were thinking about, like, if we were doing the rebuilds ourselves and saying, you're rebuilding this ship, how would you do it? Yeah, I'd agree with you. But for the sake of the question, we're assuming that everything else is the same.
That or just some sort of even more high pressure boilers or whatever. Just somehow
Because
they
for
still
Nagatos,
retain
it doesn't
the 30
matter. For
knots.
Congos, this actually does matter.
Yeah,
A lot.
Like, I agree with you, Dragon, like, completely, but like I said, in order to not go too far into the,
But no, this is where you do have to go into the nitty-gritty.
not for the question as asked, no.
I'm
question-
just confused about our answer with Mutsu.
What do
Because
you
this
mean?
probably does change a lot with Mutsu.
More than likely.
Because she's the one that suffers the magazine
She detonates,
detonation.
yes.
Yeah,
That we
she
don't
blows
know
up.
why.
Yes. If she
Uh,
doesn't blow up because of the rebuild, it still doesn't really change much, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking if they've actually. You could have to redo the magazine anyway when you're redoing the Barbettes.
Oh god, the expense.
Because you need to make a larger magazine.
Oh god, the
So
expense.
you want to go down.
Yep.
Why?
It's not going to be that expensive.
Yes, it is! You are going
The
to
expensive part's the turret.
No, it's all gonna be too fucking expensive.
Well, if they're doing it to all the ships, yes.
Even just for one of them. Just build a new ship.
But if they've actually gone through and redone the magazine, the belief thermal issues that detonate are probably are fixed.
We do not know why she blew up.
We don't know.
If it is actually someone who deliberately blew it up, it doesn't really matter how you rebuilt the magazine, does it? This is my entire you cannot speculate on whether Mutsu survives or not, merely down to the fact that we don't know why she blew up.
Yeah.
Because I thought general consensus nowadays was that it was a main situation. But part of it was just everyone assumed that it had to be someone blowing it up.
No, it was either... And also, and there's a few theories. The theory that a lot of people do subscribe to is that it was bad powder that was just in the stores, and because she hadn't used her guns in a long time, she just hadn't received new powder, so the powder was going bad and then combusted, which, even if we rebuild her, that doesn't really change when she would be stocked with powder, including the charge
it
that
does.
might have cooked. Not really, because the powder would... She was
It means she's using different powders.
No. Why would she use different powders? There's not-
Because let's be real, if you're putting the 16s in a turret that will fit on those barbettes, they're modern 16s. And a
that's-
modern 16 is use different powder to World War One 16s.
That's not...
The fuck do they use different
no.
shells? They didn't use the World War One shells.
Yeah, but the powder was the RGN powder chargers used their powder mix.
Neither of those ships existed in World War One. Just saying.
Yeah, they...
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they still use. Never
No, they don't.
mind.
No, they don't. No, Foxo, they're using. It's not that. Like, they have World War II shells using World War II powder.
Ships are
Anyway,
not
go
that
on.
old.
But
Yeah, I think she was. People think she wasn't
Well-
restocked. I think she was stocked with shells and powder for an operation. I think it was. I
Well,
think she went out for Midway with the distant force, and then she came back from Midway, and I don't think she did much after that.
the other theory that's more likely that would actually save her, this one is more likely, is the fact that it's believed that it was the reason why her magazine goes up is because partly due to powder, but more importantly due to the fact that there was an electrical issue that caused a fire.
Yeah.
So if she's now had her magazines modified again, she probably does not have the same wiring, therefore is unlikely to cause it to explode.
Yeah, that's
Probably.
yeah. That's
Also,
that
to be
is-
fair, also what this probably does affect is actually you probably see Nagato sent off for 10 go. Because 12 guns is a lot.
It wasn't so much about her. It wasn't about the Nagato's lack of firepower for why they weren't sent for 10 go. It was about whether or
Nagato's not fast enough.
Yeah, she wasn't fast enough, and also they weren't sure she would survive the run.
You say she's not fast enough, but honestly, the speed difference is not that much.
It's not just
I
the
mean,
speed
yeah,
difference.
25, 26 knots compared to 27 is not that different, but to be
It's-
fair,
Yeah,
you
but-
also have to question whether the IJN has enough fuel to scramble
They do.
Nagato as well.
That's something that is
Hey.
overstated, is their lack of fuel by the end of the war. They have enough fuel for Nagato, Mutsu if they still had her, a number of battleships, and Yamato.
Yeah, I will just point out that again, it's not just speed. Yamato was taken because she was not only faster than any other capital ship in IGN service at the time, but she was also considered survivable enough to survive the run.
No,
was the
most go off the fact that the Navy was forced to do something, so they sent their biggest and best battleship.
Well, yeah,
Which is basically what does end up. If, on the other hand, you've now got the shiny, modernized Nagato as well, you can go, well, we can save our biggest, best battleship for when we truly need it, and we can send this one that's refit and in good standard, and honestly has better firepower than the Yamato for what we're wanting it to do. The survivability, honestly, is not that different.
Yes, it is.
I mean-
it,
Cool. In the case of you replacing Yamato with Nagato on Tengo, then okay, Nagato sinks instead of Yamato.
I mean,
Doesn't make
if,
much
if
difference,
that,
but that
if
is-
that happens,
Then that means Yamato's likely
If
left
they're
till the end.
scrambling both ships together, that is a scenario that may or may not be worth looking at because Nagato
that-
may absorb some hits.
which means there might
for
be a gunline engagement.
Yamato.
Yeah, there might be a gunline engagement at the end of the run.
It's the rare chance, but to be fair, with that level of air power, it's very possible that both ships just eat
Die. Yeah.
it might make it a few more miles further, who knows, but just now we're speculating a lot into whether if
Yeah.
some of the attack meant for Yamato goes for Nagato instead.
Yeah,
that
we
sort of deal.
really are. Yeah, we really
Yeah,
are.
that's just now
yeah.
dice rolling now, so
Yeah, alright, so moving on. Question from YouTube. 96831. Would in the Cold War the RAF have been better off getting 37 Vickers Valiant B1, 17 Vickers Valiant B2, and 69 Vickers Valiant BPRK1 than what they built? I don't know what they actually built in terms of Valiants. I will go look. Let's go look. What exactly was the split in terms of... what exactly was the split in terms of Valiants procured? Let's have a look. Okay. So... How much? 37... 37... All I'm looking and seeing differently here is what was the difference with the B2? Pathfinder. Superior low-level performance. World War II Pathfinder concept was considered obsolete, which it was. Honestly, no. If I'm honest, no, they would not have been better off. Because, honestly, Valiant... If you can have more Victor and Vulcan, fine, sure. Yeah, please go for it. I don't really see the need to give them more Valiants than they already had. Valiant's acceptable for a first jet bomber, but once Vulcan and Victor come along, there's a reason it's thrown to the wayside so quickly.
Why would you need 70 almost photo reconnaissance Valiants?
Yes, they can also be pressed into service as bombers, but at that point, just build more.
No, they can't really.
Really?
Their bomb bay is massively reduced because they're changed for long-range photo reconnaissance
So
and have set refueling, slight refueling characteristics.
So they
Right,
can't even
so the aerial reconnaissance Vickers Valiant has
For goodness sake, what?
its bomb bay removed and replaced with a longer range fuel
me.
tank. It also has a significant portion of its formerly void space filled with a ground reconnaissance radar.
Because there's a reason why only 14 were actually converted and built.
Actually, this is a proper boon for the RAF. Because there was a program looked at to convert the Victor reconnaissance Valiant with their additional fuel tanks into maritime patrol aircraft. That a Valiant would have been
Yeah,
very
but-
good at.
But that's what you've got the Nimrod for.
Yeah, the reason why the Valiants didn't get converted was because it was more expensive to convert them than it was for the Nimrods. If you got them in mass, you might as well.
Even then, I'm not sure it's worth it, because keep in mind, the Valiant is deemed obsolete by the time the Nimrod's deemed cutting edge. Which I know is very ironic, but...
Thing is, a significant portion of that obsolescence is because so few get converted. And so few would have been converted to maritime patrol aircraft. You were looking at skyrocketing costs that just weren't worth it. Hence it being labelled obsolete because there's a better alternative. If you've got the numbers in force that are already the long range conversions, that's going to bring cost per unit down, so you might actually see them be converted to maritime patrol aircraft.
Maritime Patrol Valiants, what a horrifying thought.
A very, very effective. Probably then re-equipped for anti-shipping missions.
Jesus Christ, it's our own versions of the Tu-16.
Right, basically.
What a horrifying thought.
That's basically what the British were looking at for them.
Nimrod is better! In basically
Nimrod is better.
in every way.
Yeah? But would you say no to 17 more maritime strike aircraft? Maritime patrol?
Honestly, yeah, I would. Send that money elsewhere. If you have money to spend, send it elsewhere, for goodness sake.
Yeah, but why not have both?
Because I...
And then you can convert the Nimrod to being fucking AWACS aircraft like they wanted to do.
No, stop, please, good lord. Stop it, no. Jesus, what a horrifying thought. E3 Sentry Supremacy all the way.
Obviously, you do that one curse program, which is to see if you could convert the Valiant to a AWACS aircraft.
Now, Valiant as an AWACS, I can actually see. It's got the space internally for it. It's got the load carrying. See, now that is a good use for converting Valiant. That actually has the size of fuselage you need for it, and the range and the flight characteristics. That I could actually see. And
Rebellion
hopefully,
was supposed to be a mediocre bomber, but it's just a large airframe
yeah,
that's relatively efficient, can easily be re-engined.
the size of fuselage as well lends itself really well to that sort of AWACS conversion. Just like the
And the
internal
fact that Vickers
space.
fucked up when designing it.
Yeah. As
It's
long
got a
as,
higher lift capacity than the bomb capacity
yeah,
by a significant margin.
yeah. Like honestly, as long as we get a proper radome on top that spins round, and not fucking whatever the British decided to do with the Nimrod AWACS program of the fucking big fucking nose. Stop. Typical gunnery officer, why do people hate the A-10 so much? Do you think it's because of too much friendly fire to British ground forces that it was hated so much, even though the A-10 is the only viable CAS aircraft in the US inventory? Yes, Moe?
Did you purposely skip 4 questions?
No.
I think you missed quite a few questions, and you should scroll up a bit. Something should clue you in when this the 4th question of
Oh, shit.
gunnery officers.
Oh, shit,
list.
Jesus.
Ay, ay, ay.
Oh, fuck. Well, never mind. It's fine. I will. I did not purposely skip 4 questions. That is fine. We can fix this. It's fine. Ah. There we go. Typical gunner episode. What is your take on the F-100 Super Sabre for the USAF and the F-8 Crusader for the US Navy? Do you think they're both stopgap or transitional supersonic fighter aircraft before the F-4 comes in? Do you think both aircraft in terms of performance had a mediocre performance compared to British, French, and Soviet aircraft at the time? No, of course. Okay, to answer the second question, part of the question first, no, the F-100 Super Sabre and the F-8 Crusader were on par, if not better, than their French, British, and Soviet equivalents. No, they are not stopgaps or transitional aircraft. They are the generation of aircraft that they are. They're not transitional or stopgaps. They're just the next in line after what came before and before what comes after. They're not deliberately transitional or stopgappy.
Fleet. You say the F8 is better. That's what you just said, right?
I said equivalent to or better than its
Better
British,
than.
French, and Soviet counterparts. That includes that's me
Old words for someone in Buccaneer range.
The F-8 is a fighter aircraft. The Buccaneer is a strike aircraft. These are two very different aircraft.
F8's the Crusader,
Yes.
and
I
the
will-
F8's the Crusader. I don't know what to tell you, my brother in Christ.
Yeah, like Knight. Sorry, Dragon. Why are you comparing the F-8 to the Buccaneer? They're not the same. The Buccaneer's a strike
You're
aircraft.
confusing it with the A7?
Yeah, are you confusing it with the A7?
I would. Right. For a number of goals, the F8, while it's okay, it's not that great of a fighter as you're seeming to make
Whoa,
out.
whoa, 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 hold on. The F-8 was arguably the finest gunfighter ever built.
It was the
Yeah.
finest gunfighter. That when it was the finest gunfighter was 1959. What happens at that point? Like the
Also,
proliferation of the air-to-air missile.
also
which
calling
the-
it the finest of the gunfighters is generous.
It's not
Wrong?
the finest of the gunfighters, it's the last of the gunfighters.
gunfighters. Arguably might
There
be the
is
last
a slew of
gunfighters for a
problem with
reason.
the F8 with its guns and it not firing.
And
There's a
this
reason
question-
why the F8, despite being called the last gunfighter, has more missile kills than gun kills.
Which is true.
And this is a question that's got the fucking Super Sabre in it. It's arguably a much better gunfighter.
Okay, yeah, on that we can agree. The Super Sabre was a fantastic aircraft.
So the biggest point about this question, they only seem like transitional fighter, mostly because of how quickly they got phased out by newer aircrafts. Which is a very important part because they came out during the 50s, and the 50s is the era when technological development for jet aircrafts skyrocketed extremely quickly.
Yeah.
This is the period where it is probably the closest in terms of performance gap, the performance gain between the different series of aircrafts during that period of time as what happened from the beginning of World War II to the end of World War II.
What I would
Because
say...
we are,
Sorry, go on.
because we went from at the beginning of 50s transonic aircraft to Mach 2 in practically under 10 years.
Yeah.
These aircraft look like they're not very good spec-wise to the stuff that starts coming out in the 60s, but that's mostly because jet engine development took off stupidly quickly in the 50s. A lot of things that they learned about supersonic flight comes from these 50s aircraft. It is only because they built these aircrafts do they realize, hang on a minute, we could do this instead. And that's how it all accumulated into the aircrafts that come out in the 60s, like the Phantom and all the other stuff like that.
And I mean, Foxo is absolutely right in what she says earlier. So she was talking about the arrival of missiles. And I think it's a good point, and then Moe reminded me of something. When it comes to the sort of air-to-air missiles, so it's rear aspect heat seekers that are coming in as the Crusader comes in and the Super Saber comes in, they are ideal aircraft to make use of them because they've got the maneuverability to put themselves behind their enemies and get the locks they need for these missiles to work.
It's a shame I took them so long to get them.
Could you repeat that, Foxo? You were very muffled.
It's a shame it took them so long to get actually useful ones.
Yeah. You had something to say, Dragon?
Brand saying Vietnam begs to differ. No, from what I'm reading, Vietnam doesn't beg to differ. Vietnam shows that the F-8 was acceptable, but very much out of its element now. Especially when you've got F-4s flying around. It also, Vietnam's also one which points out where, yes, throughout the F-8's entire service, they shoot down 4 planes with guns.
These generally, why use guns when you have missiles?
Yeah.
And also, Vietnam's one of the prime cases of, at most, asymmetric air combat. It wasn't like they were going up there and fucking with MiG-15s and MiG-17s regularly.
Yeah. Apparently, according to what I'm reading, the F-8s had an interesting time with the MiG-17s and the MiG-18s and the MiG-19s, but apparently they did better against MiG-20... Yeah, sorry, I know the 18s. I don't know where the 18s came from, sorry. MiG-17, MiG-19. There is no MiG-18. It doesn't exist. Sorry. But apparently they did better against MiG-21s for some reason.
Similar platform.
Yeah? Why wouldn't they do
Similar
better?
platforms. The disadvantage is that the F-8's engine is a little bit old on the power delivery.
Also,
Side of things.
interesting little tidbit. Apparently, the F-8s in Vietnam were basically only operating from Essexes when they were off Vietnam, rather than any of the more modern carriers. Interesting.
Why,
Yeah,
because why would you put F-8s on your modern ships when you've got F-4 Phantoms?
I know, but I know it was. I know why they did it. I'm just, there's an interesting little fact.
Throwing Phantoms off of Essex sounds like a fun time for the
I'm not sure even the
Phantom
Essex
pilots.
could do that.
I mean, don't forget they had
Probably not.
They had a very long service life
Considering
with the
it
French
was known
Navy.
for both Clemenceau and Foe.
Yeah.
The only reason why they don't get Phantoms is, whoops, the lifts aren't strong enough.
But yeah, it's just to answer basically the question. They're not bad. They just look poorly simply because this is during the era when, aeronautical development
Is speed.
really fast.
It's sort of their contemporary with aircraft like the Javelin.
Yeah.
Actually, well, not quite.
Yeah, I've never with the Javelin.
No. If I'm remembering Javelin's dates right.
56 and first introduction date. introduced 2 years after the Super Saber.
And that would be contemporary with the Super Saber.
And 1 year before the Crusader.
Now, don't get me wrong, the Javelin was arguably a very late.
Yeah.
Came late for what it was, thanks to the decline of the British aviation industry. But it's the closest thing the RAF had to a contemporary.
Yeah, the RAF kind of skipped
That was
past...
that was same class.
The RAF kind
And
of...
in terms of naval fighters, you're looking at what, Scimitar?
The Vixen.
The Vixen.
And
Yeah.
while people have issues with Sea Vixen actually is an excellent platform for the first gen jet fighters of its
It's a
time.
good platform
Oh, no,
that
we
suffers
won't
from
argue with
fire
that.
freak. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, and a lack of
Part of the
guns.
reason why I also don't necessarily deem the Crusader that great. While I do wish the Sea Vixen had various improvements, which it should have got.
Well, to be fair, if you think about it, what other competition is there? Who else operates a carrier? If we're talking about comparison, there is
Yeah.
what? Crusader, Sea Vixen, and then
That's-
what?
And the French buy Crusader, so they don't have a domestic carrier-based jet fighter that they build. And they don't get one until the Rafales on Charles de Gaulle. The Soviets don't operate any carrier aircraft unless we're considering the Yak-38 for this contest, but that's way later and nowhere near as capable as any of the aircraft we're talking about here. So, yeah.
So it's actually, you just have two choices.
Yeah.
Sea Vixen and Crusader.
Yeah. 9683, so basically...
No, I gotta push back on the whole French thing. Remember, the French do operate the Jag. Or carriers.
Yeah.
The Jag?
They also, I think they also
Yeah,
did
but didn't
consider
operate off
some
carriers.
navalized Mirage.
The Jaguar didn't operate off.
Right, Blake, I'm gonna put through it in rambling text chat. That's the Jag on a carrier.
Was it something the French did regularly? Let's have a look.
And
To be
that's
fair,
the Jag taking off from a carrier.
Okay. Oh, they made one prototype for the French Navy, but sadly it never went anywhere.
They did have somewhere in between, it just didn't go anywhere.
I mean, yes, but to be fair, this is 10 years, almost 10 years after the Crusader entered
Yeah.
service.
Right, so,
Not contemporary.
yeah, so, right, moving on.
But
You
yes,
forgot about
Jag.
the Jag.
Tried.
Jag, the Jag,
Like,
Honestly,
We have to
I
say
think
it.
I
Jag.
think a navalized Mirage platform would have been a better choice, but
Yeah, they
Yeah.
could have. They could have
knows?
navalized Mirage. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't. I don't know why they
and
didn't.
it's like,
It
you've got to
could have
remember
been
when
the
it comes
weight.
to aircraft like the MiG-15, the MiG-17, and the 19.
Yeah.
They're only so fondly remembered because of their use in the Third World. And actually, European War Gone Hot fighters, they weren't actually that good. Dutch don't tell me through that.
Yeah. Knight 6831 asks, for Dragon and Foxo, if the Habakkuk proposal was turned into a Cancer, would it be correct that she'd be the Cancer with the largest chest?
You would be entirely wrong.
It
It entirely depends on the author. Knowing them, it could be a basically lolly schoolgirl with nothing.
No, I know exactly what they would do.
Do you, Foxo? Because that's what they did to the
no.
KGV class. Or
Yeah,
tried to.
and they learned their lesson because of the backlash they got from it. No, I'm thinking more of you have this truly massive carrier who's ice-based. That's a giantess right there. An untapped
Mm.
market.
No, because AL doesn't go into that.
Right. The next question is something that
8 foot tall mummy, muscle mummies they would.
No,
the
doesn't.
next
Yeah,
question.
they don't really do that.
The next question is, I'm going to read it out, then I'm going to take 2 minutes just to refill my little wood burner, because I know Foxo has something to say about questions like this, and I'm going to let her say what she wants to say. Brandon Larson asks, what if the entire modern US went back in time to 1978 or 1980? How much does that affect the world? The entire US military goes back as well.
Do you really want Trump running things during the 80s?
This is a fundamentally flawed question on a fundamental level. Because unless you're sending them back to the Black Death, or maybe prehistory, a modern army, or modern air force, modern navy, splatter automatically everything they fire. Or, if you send it back to the 80s and 90s, it's a nothing burger. It's not going to do any fighting because it's the era of mad.
I wasn't
And you just
thinking
get a lot
about
of,
fighting.
So that's how it will work when it comes to electronics. And you probably have a riot or two
Does
because
modern
it's still
day
the era of
US
segregation.
does modern day US include the satellites it launches?
Yes, that includes the entire infrastructure in space as well. We had this last time.
Yep.
So okay,
And probably the ISS
The
as well,
question-
technically.
the question would now be how would the current generation of people deal with having no internet? I mean, to be fair, they could probably scrounge something back up again, but
Yeah.
It'd be weird.
Here's to remember that the intranet, intranet, other thing, and intranet.
Hmm.
And
But
like I
it's just-
said, I don't know if I want Trump running around the 80s.
This is not a good idea. Right,
As
probably...
a political entity, I
Yeah.
know he exists in the 80s.
Yeah, this...
Yeah.
Does anyone else have
But
anything?
I don't know to make a point. But,
Yeah.
but it's just a really repetitive and boring question asking what if you sent X modern military force back in time to X period?
Hmm.
Because the modern military is so out of context for any other time in human history, unless you're sending you into the future, that the answer's always the same. Because in the modern day, we struggle to protect against GBUs. What the fuck are the Nazis going to do against GBUs?
How are they going to stop? How are they going to stop the? Just a quote from my head from things I remember. How are they going to stop the modern Royal Navy? How are they going to deal with the U.S. Seventh Fleet? How are they going to deal with a modern Soviet army from the 80s? I'm just listing off some of the things that we've had. Like the answer is
It's
always
like-
the same.
A single SSN has the unironic firepower to eradicate Nazi Germany off the face of the earth with little recompense.
Do you mean SSBN?
Sorry, SSBN.
Yeah.
Sorry. Has the power to wipe Nazi Germany off the face of the map without no recourse.
Yep.
There's no question there. It's the same answer every time.
More, if you do want to stick with questions like this, shift your time frame. So, for example, ask, what if instead of running up and facing Wellington at Waterloo, he instead runs into, I don't know, let's say you have British, like say you have a much smaller force, say from the Battle of it's you know, like a Zulu warrior, a British army, but a lot smaller than the one Napoleon's bringing. Like that would be an interesting thing. Like,
no, it wouldn't.
It was just an example of, you know, like the sort of periods you could actually. Maybe Foxho's got some better ones.
Or a fun one would be, what if the British Expeditionary Force at the start of World War One, instead of landing in 1914 France, lands in Napoleonic France?
Yeah, that would be.
Not really, because that's still a slaughter.
That's still a massive force. 300,000.
Right, like that's.
But that's still a case of.
I mean,
You're not,
say
you don't have such a disproportionate difference where you can actually talk about the political ramifications of it. It's not just, okay, you put US 6th Armored you've put 2nd Guards Army in World War II. Wow, that's a lot of dead Nazis.
The reason why I say even that doesn't properly work, Fox, is just going off your example there. That's 250,000 people that just landed in France, all armed with artillery, automatic machine guns, and basically self-reloading and self-loading rifles.
We're dealing with rifles that has further range and better accuracy than most Napoleonic artillery.
Unfortunately, a lot of X-Force from future goes to X point in time is just this is a stomp. Unless you're going to start getting to more interest until you're going to start going really basic. Like, yes, throw this like maybe 1400 army versus one from like the 1100s. And even then, that's still a bit of a stomp.
But that becomes an interesting matchup. Because how warfare has changed, but not really changed. Like, but you'll
That's
notice that
saying,
in my question about BEF landing in Napoleonic France, I didn't say, oh, and they've got all the logistics strength to support it. I just said they're landing there with no logistics.
Well, that's why I'm just going off what they landed with, which is still enough to dominate France.
But it's
That's 250,000 people with what they brought. That's a lot of stuff.
We've gotten the point across about the question.
Anyway, so
either way, Paris burns again.
Yeah. Anyway, so next question from YouTube, 1961. If the RAF had built 6 Vulcan K2, 14 Valiant PPR K1, 44 Valiant BK1, 11 Victor K1s, 14 Victor K1As, and 24 Victor K2s, how would the RAF go about replacing them in the 1980s?
They don't.
Fun fact! Yeah, they don't.
With what?
Yeah, they don't.
With what industry is there to replace those?
And also, what need is there to replace them?
Guess you could buy American.
Like, there's... The French had proved by that point that if you want to do an air-based nuclear deterrent as an adjutant to your submarine or silo-based deterrents, the way to go about it as a second-rank power was to have a sort of quasi-precision strike capability based around a smaller, faster airframe, rather than a large bomber-based airframe. Like, make no mistake, the Mirage 4 is a fucking unit of an aircraft, but it ain't the size of a Vulcan.
Just saying, a freefall bomb strapped to a buck is good enough.
Like, if you want to replace the V-Force with something that's aimed at maintaining an air strike capability, do you want to know what my honest answer to that is?
It already exists, OTL. It's called the Papnavia Tornado.
Yeah, basically, just have a tornado that's set up for that, and procure a weapon system for it to carry. Basically, I mean, honestly, you could do worse than basically following the French example and coming up with an air-launched nuclear cruise missile.
I mean, if you think about it, even the US stepped away from large bomber fleets,
Yeah.
nuclear capable bomber fleets in that period.
Mm.
So it's like, who in their right mind would try to continue this doctrine?
Yeah. There's no need for them. The US basically started denuclearizing the B-52 fleet in the 80s. That's when that process started. Admittedly, it took them until the middle of the last decade to get it done, but they started that process then. The only bombers in the US inventory that are nuclear rated now, I think, are... For bombs, I think it's just the B-2s. I think B-1 is rated for nuclear cruise missiles, but not for nuclear bombs. And the only thing that's rated for all air-dropped, be they guided or unguided nuclear munitions in US inventory is B-2, as far as I'm aware. And B-21 probably as well.
To be fair, I'm unsure
The
if you
thing
want to
about-
drop a nuclear bomb with a B-1.
The thing about freefall nuclear bombs is that they were designed to use very similar or the same bomb blocks as a 2,000-pound bomb. Meaning that in a pinch, you can mount them on any modern strike craft.
Yeah.
Fun fact. From what I've been able to gather, Pavnavia Tornado's bomb blocks would also fit a WE-177 nuclear bomb. Despite the fact that tornadoes were technically non-nuclear capable. When nuclear weapons start to miniaturize, pretty much anything can carry them.
Oh yeah, no, completely. I'm more talking for a strategic level nuclear weapon. You're probably still going to want a new system. The Tornado could probably still carry, but, you know...
It's like...
something like the French. You're going to want something like the French system, basically down... Basically, the whole reason for it is basically so that the aircraft can...
It's strategic bomber big because nuclear bomb very big.
Oh, no, I'm aware.
Strategic bomber get very small because nuclear bomb get very
Oh,
small.
no, I'm aware. It's more just like... like, I'm not trying to counter your point. I'm just trying to add additional, context onto
I'm
it.
trying to get the point across.
I think another big thing is that the strategic level of a nuclear detonation is varies quite a bit during the different periods.
Hmm.
I'm unsure if you could call a free-fall nuclear bomb a strategic level threat by the 80s.
Hmm. There's a reason why the French moved away from them. Both AN-22s and AN-52s. They replaced them with... Well, partially it was also survivable as well. Survivability as well.
It's a as far as I'm aware, it's a very big asterisk.
Yes, I know it's a very big asterisk, but that's why it's such a weird issue. Whether you could, you could technically call a 1 megaton a strategic nuclear warhead. Technically.
Because there's always the argument of dropping any nuclear weapon is actually a strategic use of nuclear weapons.
Oh yeah, completely. Like,
Yes. But that's why it's such a rocky
that's kind of...
position.
Like, that's kind of why I was suggesting that you would have a new cruise missile for the Tornado for this role, to kind of avoid that sort of trap of, these are free-fall bombs that you could use in a tactical... No, this is a weapon... this is a strategic weapon that we use for strategic deterrence. That is what it's there for.
Which is to simply to say, ICBMs has replaced bombers as the primary strategic strike asset.
Yeah.
It just makes more sense.
Right. Okay, so... Typical Gunnery Officer on Discord asks, what is your opinion on a few history channels and wereaboos classifying the Wehrmacht, Bismarck, and Tirpitz as super battleships? Do you think the title of super battleship should only be given to the Yamatos and Vanguard? I don't think the title of super battleship belongs to any capital ship. Ever. Not even the Yamatos. No.
It does belong to some.
No, not really.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't belong to any of them.
The only ones it belongs to are the Super Dreadnoughts that were super battleships.
Again, not really. Again, it's this same trap of like they're just bigger battleships with bigger guns. It's been done before.
Yeah.
Like it's just they're not super. They're just the next thing. It's not.
They kind of were though for the time.
Yes, for the time they
I
were,
mean-
and then something else comes along.
So
and
yeah,
then,
but calling them super battleships works because they're the only thing that in the time period actually were referred to as super battleships or
But-
super dreadnought battleships.
yes,
Yamato is only called a super battleship post Yamato's sinking.
But I could also
effectively.
say by that logic, by the logic you're applying, you could argue that they do earn that title even prior to sinking, given that they are a step above in caliber and size what came before. If I wanted
That's
to use
not what I
your...
said.
No, but
Okay, right.
That's not the logic either.
If we go off the common accepted definition of the word super being something that exists but significantly or disproportionately better, the Yamatos are the only ships that can be called super battleships
well,
because
They're
they
the
are
ones that barely clears it.
contemporary. If I remember correctly, they aren't contemporary to the high-end fast battleships.
they're KGV contemporaries,
Mm.
laid down around the same
Kind
time.
of. They're more
Well, yeah.
super battleships compared to the Big Seven battleships, as in what came before them.
Mhm.
And comparing them to the Big Seven, they are superfied versions of those battleships. Therefore, they are super battleships.
I fundamentally disagree with the term existing. I think it's silly.
Yes, but you disagree with a lot of terms existing.
Yeah, it's silly. They're just bigger battleships. They don't have to be called. They're just.
Yeah, it's the same justification on the reason justification of super carrier. It's a carrier, but bigger
Yeah,
with more stuff. But it's still a carrier, therefore it's a super
But
carrier.
technically, then, Fleet, going off this, then, by what you have said, you should disagree with, as Fox has said, super carriers, the term
Super
dreadnought
tankers,
battleships, super
super
tankers.
liners,
Yeah,
I do disagree.
super haulers.
you've never. Then this has never come up, and
Yeah,
you have never once said you dislike the term dreadnought battleship.
I disagree with the terms existing. I don't like the classification. Like, I understand why they exist, and I'm not arguing that I'm not arguing that the terms shouldn't exist. The question was, do I think the title should be given to these ships? I don't like the terms. I feel like it's unnecessary. However, that doesn't mean I don't recognize why they exist, or that there perhaps is an inherent value to them in the way in which they can help classify things into neat, manageable groups. I'm not saying that the term shouldn't exist. What I'm saying is that, me personally, I don't really I don't know, it's one of those weird little things. It's just personal preference rather than... It's like how Dr. Clark doesn't like calling things pre-dreadnoughts, whereas I like it as it's a useful term for a set class of ships. But he will categorically stand there and refuse to use the term. It's a sort of similar things here.
He'll use the term. He uses it semi-frequently.
It was more of a rough example rather than a hard and fast rule. Yes, he does use the term. Same thing. But again, same thing with me. Like, I will occasionally, refer to super battleships as a concept that exists occasionally. If I'm talking about something, again, the same thing. It's not so much a hard and fast rule. It's more of a... Oh god, I've been not clicking YouTube. Oh my lord, Night's been going off on YouTube as
Anyway.
usual. But yeah,
There is,
it's-
in my
it's-
opinion,
on.
there's only one condition that you can label Place Marking Turk Pits as super battleship, It's if you ignore every other ship that exists outside the German category.
To be fair, most of the time I actually hear them referred to as super battleship is Hitler's super battleship.
Yeah.
Comparing it
And
to
technically,
stuff
that term would be correct.
comparing it to basically Scharnhorst at best, and more really comparing it to stuff like the Deutschlands, because a lot of media refers to the Deutschlands as battleships.
Well, yeah, because pocket battleships, right? So it
No,
must be a
not even
battleship.
not even as pocket battleship, just
Yeah,
actual,
no.
straight up just battleship.
No. I'm saying as in they're categorized with the term battleship in the category, so they must be a battleship. They must be a capital unit, which technically, quote unquote, technically they are. They are really shit capital units, but yeah, they're technically not wrong on that point either.
Also, I don't know why Vanguard's included there as a super battleship, because Vanguard isn't a
Well,
super
I don't know
battleship.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But in the context, I will just say that in the context of the super battleship, in this period, only one class deserve it, and that's the Yamatos.
yeah, if we
They
are,
barely
if you
cut-
are, yeah,
They barely cut it.
yeah, if we are going to accept the term's existence, then I will absolutely agree with Foxo completely. Like, there is no question. It's literally
On
them
a
or nothing.
fundamental level, in a time when other capital ships are 30 to 40,000 tons, being 70,000 tons,
Yeah, it's not even.
it's a step up in the same way that the Super Dreadnought was a step up above the 12-inch Dreadnought.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or the QEs were a step up above the 13.5.
Had the Montanas been built, they could perhaps also be on the lower end of that category, given their step up in size. They were going to be a significantly larger vessel. They would have been 63,000 ton standard, 70,000 tons full load. So had the Montanas been built, they would probably also be.
Super battleship.
Yeah.
Because
They're a
technically,
simplified version of-
lineage-wise, they would be coming from the South Dakota line.
Yeah.
Iowa would just be a sidestep.
Yeah.
But remember,
So,
kid,
yeah,
context
really
is important.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, on YouTube, Bonewheel Boy asked, what if the buoyant bomb was used by the RAF when it was available in 1939? Why wasn't it used by the RAF or the Fleet Air Arm despite being ready? So, I had never heard of this. And I'm just doing some looking into it. And from what I can see, from what I'm looking at, I'm looking through some forums and other places. As far as I can see,
The answer is it was.
I can't see any information on that. I can see information that the British were trying to get it working, but I don't think they did.
The buoyant bomb, a type of spinning and swimming bomb developed by a British engineer called Barnes Wallis during World War II.
That's the bouncing
It-
bomb.
Yes, but the buoyant bombs are part of that program, from what I've
It's a type of bouncing bomb.
Not from
Yeah,
what
it's a
I
type
can
of bomb.
see. It's from what I can see, it's not even. From what I can see, Highball spun off of the idea, but the programs were not related. Since the whole idea of the buoyant bomb was that it would drop, sink, then rise up underneath the keel of the enemy ship and detonate. Whereas,
I thought that was a U.S. bomb.
no. Whereas the idea of sinking ships through unique bombs that they interacted with water in strange ways led to the idea of highball and upkeep. Which, of course, are the much more famous bouncing bombs. But the buoyant bomb, from what I can read and looking around, I don't think was ready as far as I can. There are plans for it that I've found, but as far as I can see, there's no information on construction numbers, how many were built, when they were built, and when or if they were ready for war and or they saw service during the war. As
So
far
what
as I
I
could see, a little bit of a
found-
little bit of a deep dive here.
So what I found when it comes to, which is a dubious source, it's coming from secret projects, and someone citing their sources from it, and I followed the sources to the point where it's sourcing actual books I don't have.
Hmm.
That it was an experimental idea which would get folded in to the Bouncing Bomb project.
Yeah.
It would be a part of what it would then going to be used as a experimental developmental stage of the bombs used for the Dam Buster project.
Hmm.
Because it from it comes a lot of how the fuck do you say that word? Just a second.
Learning experience.
No, it's about how something explosively enters water without shattering. I'm just not going to say that because that's I don't think I can physically, but
Could you spell it out? Maybe I can have a crack at it. I'm not afraid of embarrassing
Oh,
myself with word salad.
I'm declaring that word heresy. No.
Okay.
But basically, it was just one of those projects that got folded into bigger projects when it actually got some success,
Yeah.
and it. Well, okay, reading between the lines here, it appears as if it was a good idea that didn't give much advantage over a conventional large bomb.
I think
That was also a lot more temperamental in testing.
Yeah.
So it just
I
sort of
mean,
got
to
folded
be
into
fair-
other projects.
based on what I'm reading and understanding, trying to land a bomb that sinks and then floats back on a ship that is moving sounds like a hassle, and anything that and it also sounds like a relatively large bomb, which basically means that you have to do it with relatively large aircraft, which means you're probably not strapping that to a carrier-based aircraft and trying to port strike something. It just sounds like it's meant to target things that is stationary, and let's just say I also would presume you have to drop that thing from a relatively low altitude.
So initially, it was a 2,000-pound Torpex warhead that was cut down to 1,000 pounds of Torpex, which is cut down to 500 pounds of Torpex, which was cut down to 250 pounds of Torpex.
We are losing
Finally
Torpex.
cut down to 113
We're
pounds of
losing the
Torpex.
Torpex. Losing
Which
the
makes me
Torpex.
By
think
this
that-
stage,
Apparently
That
Admiral
probably when it
Wellesley.
gets about 250, it could have been used by a medium bomber. But we're looking at it was cut down to 250 in about 43.
Wellesley, can you not hear Moe? Is Moe coming through all right for everyone else?
am I quiet? I don't
Not
know.
for me, you're not. So you should be coming out all right on my end through YouTube. But I have you turned up all the way to 200%.
Okay.
But for me, you're fine.
Looking at it, it was also a development of a 1,000 pound spherical mine.
You found the same website I found,
who,
yeah.
With early mine laying, there was this perceived idea of basically a proactive mine laying, where a mine laying aircraft would drop these in front of a sailing ship. And they'd go down,
Ah.
and they were magnetic, so they would come back up and blow up underneath it, compared to a conventional bomb.
It's definitely one of the...
So basically, a weapon that people could just defeat by turning.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes,
I
indeed.
Which
think
is
we
why-
know why.
Yeah.
Which is why the initial development pre-World War II, it goes from £1,000 spherical mine to a £2,000 spherical mine.
I don't know, like I said, it just sounds like something that's better at targeting stationary targets, which is basically something warships tend to not be in.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
It was a wacky and wonderful idea.
So, a typical gunnery officer from Discord asks, do you think the Iowa battleships after their reactivation in the 1980s were turned into anti-ship and cruise missile trucks instead of true battleships, since in the age of missiles, the 16-inch gun would only be useful against static targets or ground targets and not naval targets? Yes, that is the literal reason that the US Navy brought them back. The reactivation of the Iowas in the 1980s was a perfect storm of three things. One, the refits to bring VLS Spruance into the fleet, which was supposed to be the primary means by which the US planned to lob naval tomahawk at things, was still ongoing and was taking longer than they thought it was going to take. Two, the push for the 400, 300 ship navy under Reagan. And
That's 1,000.
yeah, whatever the number was, the push for that, and the fact that they could bring them back in relatively quickly, relatively cheaply, and they had the space to strap box launcher for Tomahawk to them with relative ease. And by so doing, they ended up having the heaviest missile throw weight of any US service combatant when it came to anti-ship missiles by a considerable margin. Thank you, 600 ship Navy.
Honestly, the way I see the Iowa's commissioning, it's just the US Navy being like, we now have 4 new targets for the Soviets to waste missiles on instead of our carriers.
Yeah, there was an element of that as well, yeah.
It is just, in my opinion, it's just a giant, please shoot at me instead of the carriers, which are strategically more valuable.
Yeah, it's literally, look at the SAG, look at the SAG, look at the service action group centered around the Iowa. Don't look at the carrier group, look at the SAG.
Yeah, keep throwing missiles at it. It will probably take more missiles than you have to sink it, but hey, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe you get lucky.
Yeah, there's a reason why the Iowas are covered in Sea-Wiz, because the US Navy was under no illusions as to how much their armor was worth, even against some of the weaker Soviet missiles. Like diddly and
Here's
squat.
a big ass pinata.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
Not really. I
Dragon, Foxo?
think it's, to be fair, if you think about it, I think that's basically the role of battleships if you try to introduce one nowadays.
Yeah,
It is there for the enemy to target.
pretty much, yeah.
It's sort of like a fucking... The platonic ideal of a tank. Shoot at me, don't shoot at the actual valuable things.
Yeah. Which is honestly an interesting idea. A modern battleship would look so different from what we think of a battleship. It's more likely it won't have any sort of big guns or anything, but just 200,000 Sea-Wiz. And probably just your standard VLS tubes everywhere. It's an arsenal ship, basically.
Yeah, a modern, there's a reason, I know that Dr. Clark and Drake are keen on calling modern large service combatants cruisers, but I much prefer large service combatant. It fits better with,
I don't know.
all modern ships are basically just service combatants of one size or another. The old terms are, no, they don't really fit anymore.
Incredibly useful.
I
Because
disagree.
all ships
can
throughout
be.
history have been surface combatant.
I mean, yes. An Indian means a
And
surface
the
combatant.
advantage of terms like battleship, battle cruiser, cruiser, is the fact that they are very visceral words. Battleship. Very functional. What does it tell you? It's a ship that goes into battle. Aircraft carrier. What does it do? Carry air. Surface combatant. It's
The terms are useful.
The surface
It's just,
combatant or littoral combat ship. First thing first, the fuck's a littoral, and okay, it's a ship that can do combat. When it comes to fighting the PER and the monetary wars, those names are incredibly important.
Mm.
you can't study naval history without studying political history.
Basically.
Yeah, I know. 6831 asks, if before Jutland the battlecruiser HMS Invincible is replaced by the carrier HMS Invincible with nukes on board, presumably the free-fall bombs we talked about earlier, will the RN use them on Germany, and what would be the consequences? I mean...
So, are we talking about an RN that has no understanding on what they're about to fire, or are we talking about
I'm assuming...
an RN that has an idea of what they're about to fire?
I'm assuming the Invincible will be crewed by the crew that's come back with her and will know exactly what they're carrying, and presumably so they can also fly the Sea Harriers and the Sea Kings, all that stuff, important things.
And when you say before the battle, do you mean before they sortie for the battle, or during the voyage to the battle? There's a little bit of specification required there, but hey,
I mean,
and just generally speaking, in my opinion, if they know what they're about to fire, they probably won't fire it. If they don't know what they're going to fire, I doubt they know how to fire it.
Yeah. Yeah, they wouldn't use nuclear weapons on Germany. There's no need. There's no need. The conflict can be won conventionally. It serves no purpose.
It's just now you've lost a battle cruiser. Well, quote unquote battle cruiser. Which, I mean, it'd be interesting. It means certain other ship has to take the place of Invincible getting blown up.
I mean, she wouldn't be in the battle line, you'd hope.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. Another ship would be in place of Invincible instead of Invincible.
Yeah.
Which will lead to the question of, is it going to be a ship that get blown up like Invincible or not? I don't know.
You don't understand, I'm fucking invincible.
I'm invincible! Chops leg off. Alright, we'll call it a draw.
No, that was just peak rude. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I believe we have gone through the question you originally tried to skip.
Yeah. Typical gunner officer. Why do people hate the A-10 so much? Do you think it's because of too much friendly fire to British ground forces it was hated so much, even though the A-10 is the only viable CAS aircraft in US inventory? First of all, the A-10, it's a light bomber cosplaying as a CAS aircraft, first of all, and has been since its creation. Secondly...
I take much offense to only viable CAS aircraft at that.
Secondly, it's not the only viable CAS aircraft. With modern technology, a B-52 can do close air support. Can plant a J down with pinpoint accuracy right where they want it.
And they did.
Yeah, and they did. Thirdly, there was friendly fire, to be fair, and the A-10 has the A-10 does have a friendly fire problem, but that's only when it tries to use the one weapon system that quite frankly it basically no longer uses for anything other really than morale purposes. The A-10 is a good aircraft when it doesn't use its gun. With the sensor packages, with the sensor packages it now has, it is an excellent light bomber that is rugged, reliable, and I will admit that is one thing about the A-10 that isn't overblown. It's rugged, reliable, and it can take a decent amount of punishment for an aircraft of its size. And now that it actually has the sensors so the pilot can use his weapons without having to use binoculars to see his targets, although, to be fair, if the A-10 was lugging Mavericks around, that was already fine, because the Mavericks were laser-guided, and he would have a laser pod for them, so even then, even before it got its sensor upgrade, if it had Mavericks, the A-10 was pretty good as an anti-tank platform. But yeah, unfortunately, the A-10 was saddled with that ridiculous gun, when it could have had a targeting pod instead, or something similar, which would have made it infinitely more better. Yes, I know, Bert, sound is nice and all that, but Honestly,
You can
I
just don't have that issue. The A10.
go on.
To be fair,
And it suffered from a minor case of American politics. Because for those that somehow don't know, the A10 was the love child of a group and a specific man in American
let's not talk.
1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s aviation. I won't say his name here because he is a demon
John Boyd.
of America Bad. But his group are what's known as reformers.
Oh, yay, we're talking about them. Whoopee.
And the A10 was massively overblown in what it could do and became a political showpiece of what it could do.
Now, let's
And
admit
it's
it.
stuff like. Sorry, what's that?
Let's admit it. The biggest thing that the U.S. Air Force understood it can do in its actual design is that it will fly for a few weeks during the breakout of World War III, in behind enemy lines, blowing up whatever it can see before it gets shot down.
Like,
It was
the-
never designed
That
to be a
is-
long-term sustainment platform.
It was designed for a concept that never really took off in the US Air Force, but actually took off in the RAF, which was the idea of ablative ground support, where you would build your ground support part of your Air Force to be specifically built to take and survive taking losses, significant losses, as in losing half of it in 2 weeks losses.
yeah.
And the issue is that the A10 got massively overblown because of these political shenanigans and America Bad and the reformers.
I mean,
And it became a political shit show, which then led in the 2010, and it also became a meme on the early internet because cool ass fucking 30mm. A10 go burr,
like,
Yeah, to be
But-
fair,
which was
I won't knock it down in Afghanistan. Anyone
will.
on the ground would be perfectly happy with the fact that some dude with a 30mm is strafing the hell out of something. It's a good morale booster in a very low intensity conflict fight. That's
it's
the only
cheap
time when
from-
the A10. Yeah, that's the only time when the A10 was
It's-
actually like. It's a decent, viable platform. But obviously, of course, he's probably
I
going
mean,
to
I'm
choose
actually
the
gonna, I'm
even
actually,
cheaper.
I am gonna push
Or
back
you
on
Can I just
that.
point some
aircraft.
out? Can I just point some out? The A10s operating in the Middle East had a lower maintenance cost per flight hour out of the entirety of the campaign than the Army's attack helicopters did.
Hmm.
And they fulfill similar roles.
Yeah. I'm also going to push back on that was the, best time the A10 was available. I'd say that once the A10, shortly after its introduction, was mated with Maverick, you've suddenly got an entirely different animal. A10 mated with Maverick was just, yes, that actually was a case of Russian tank column be gone.
I
And the
counter
Russian tank column-
with F-16 with Mavericks. Does the same thing, will get to the location faster, and, well, it could actually fight its way out if it really has to.
And it's not vulnerable to shulkers.
Pretty much.
But the A10, it's sort of like that prop CAS aircraft from and the Sky Raider in Korea and
Vietnam.
Vietnam.
That's literally what they were supposed to... Yeah.
It's a low intensity air superiority, get bombs and foreheads aircraft that's meant to be cheap. And the issue is a lot of the hate comes from people can't understand that it's a low intensity platform for low intensity roles. But that hate is backlash from people who thought it was the best ever because it had Big Gungo Burr. And they're just the reformers poisoning the well. when it comes to stuff like the Aardvark and the Strike Eagle.
Aardvark. Oh, Jose, can you see faded in the background?
Basically, the hate for the A10's a backswing of anti-reformist sentiment.
Yeah. I mean, bear in mind,
And
just for reference, and I'm going to take the opportunity to dunk on the reformers here. These are the people who thought it would be a brilliant idea if the army would have replaced its Abrams with M48s. These are the people who decided that the best air superiority fighter was an aircraft that jettisoned all of its fuel when it engaged in combat, and had a pair of AMRAAMs and a single non-rotary 20mm cannon as its only armament. These are the people who thought that radar is for dumb people. Why do you need radar? Go away. No, use a pair of binoculars. Are you stupid or something? These are the people who have consistently made it their mission to basically chew up government paychecks in the US Pentagon, doing nothing more than basically trying to sabotage the US military and get US servicemen killed. And I think the only reason they are allowed, and I think the only reason they're allowed to persist is because they consistently fail, but because they make noise about how bad US systems are. It's a very nice smokescreen, and it's a very nice false propaganda, in a way, that China and Russia will eat up, but doesn't actually affect how capable the systems actually are.
I think, in my opinion, the best way to describe them is they are people who looked at the Vietnam War and said, what if we just turn the US military into the Vietnamese army? Or into the Vietnamese military?
Not about that. On the aircraft side of things, so some things they were right. They were right about the fucking Sheridan. People forget that the earlier reformers' move was against the Sheridan and the over-adoption of the anti-tank missile. Which, look how that turned out.
Well, the over-adoption of the anti-tank missile wasn't really a...
It was definitely a thing for the US in the 50s and the 60s.
I mean, they were absolutely right to do it. The anti-tank missile was a very good system. And
Yeah,
the
hence I said
adoptions...
over-adoption. Stuff like trying to replace the 90mm on the M48 and the M60 with a tube-launched ATGM.
Oh, yeah, Starship and
I mean,
Sheridan.
to be
yeah,
fair,
those were,
that is also during the era of we don't know whether if tank gun is the right thing to carry forward.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why that occurred.
But
They were accidentally correct.
Yeah, the best way I can describe the reformers is they learned the lessons of the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. And they haven't learned the lessons of the 70s and the 80s. It's like, you look at a lot of the reformers' claims about missiles and radar combat. If you go back to when those claims were first made, it's the mid-50s and the early 60s when shit like Firestreak was that, when radar couldn't tell the difference between aircraft.
Yeah.
It's sort of basically it's boomerism.
Yes.
It's simple.
That's the,
Yeah,
that's a
them,
really
it's
good way of
basically in the
describing it, Foxo, yeah.
Yeah, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, the US has no problem securing air superiority. Radar comes in, we start taking us a whole bunch of losses. Radar must be issued.
Yeah, and also calling them boomers is that is a brilliant way to describe it. I had not thought of that before. The reformers are boomers for the military. That's literally... She's fucking nailed it. It's fucking funny.
Anyway, beating it to
Sorry, I break fully again. Do you want to move?
yeah,
Continue.
we should move on. Whatever the next thing is. To be fair, it sounded like he was stepping away, so it might take a second.
Oh dear. Right. Pull up a chair and sit down. Right, okay, so, next question. Knight6831 asks, how does the panel rate my Hosh Azure Lane headcanon? Hosh would be her Kleber subclass Mogador class large destroyer as the Siren's Sankar ironclad predecessor, with an identical twin sister, the Type 36 Z-23 based Hosh class destroyer. Marine Nationale Hosh, who would be summoned at the same time as Z-25, who would aid Iron Blood in collapsing the Iris Orthodoxy. Words.
Okay, no, I get roughly what that's meant to be, and unfortunately it doesn't really make too much sense.
It makes no
Because the
sense
Iris
to me.
Orthodoxy collapses before this point, because Iris Orthodoxy is France, rightfully?
Right. If you say so.
You then get Vicia Dominion,
Uh-huh.
which is Vichy France,
aka Vichy France.
and Iris Liberté, which is Free France.
Aren't these people supposed to all be allied fighting the Sirens? Like, you know, the bigger
No.
threat?
Yes
No.
and no. Azure Lane as an organization at one point was. And then differences started appearing of how do you defeat Sirens. Iron Blood and Sakura started going, well, why don't we use the enemy technology against them? And worked to various levels. Others disagreed. It's why you have the whole with the two French factions. One joins Iron Blood, one joins Azure Lane. Because they disagree on how it's meant to be done. Though technically now Iris Orthodoxy is back.
Yeah, because Jean Bart is. I would say she's got an asset. She's got assets in the form of charisma, shall we say?
Hmm.
Also, Jean Bart is actually a very good leader, even though she doesn't believe it. But
But yeah,
it makes some
Dragon,
sense.
she's
Like
got
the idea of
charisma.
yeah, I know exactly what you're meaning, but
I like her charisma. She's very funny.
because actually, then again, Hosh has appeared in Warships, hasn't she?
Why would Hosh ever show up in warships?
No, it's a tier 8 premium mount, as I know.
We're talking about the Destroyer Hosh rather than the...
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a message from Kilbin saying, do I know the standard, you know, like the ship's symbol for Hosh? I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know that.
How did you fail him in this task?
I don't know. I don't know that much. I don't know. Hosh is my favorite ship, but I don't know all the minutiae
Then again,
about them.
actually, genuine question: do
I feel like you
the
should.
ships of that era actually have badges?
I don't
The World
know.
War II ones, I'm guessing. The World War II ones, I'm guessing they do, but the actual original ones, I don't know if they do.
I don't know.
But basically, the
I
headcanon's
mean-
not the worst. It makes sense in a number of regards. The
Mhm.
idea of two ships that are the same ship being summoned at the same time does exist.
Hmm.
Honestly, I think the more amusing one is where you end up with a... not Elbay. Emden situation. Where two ships of the same name basically inhabit the same body.
Ew, that's a horrible thought.
Well, they've technically got two separate bodies. They're just basically linked in almost every way.
Yeesh. What a horrible thought.
This is why I prefer the content collection system.
Yeah, because I just don't understand why Hosh would appear at the same time. Because Hosh only becomes Hosh in 1946.
Mm-hmm.
So why would she be summoned at the same time as Z-25 to help collapse the... It's just a little awkward timeline-wise.
Yeah. Okay, so, Typical Gunner Officer asks, question 5, related to question 4, do you think the A-10 would be better off with turboprop engines instead of its original jet engines? Since CAS doesn't
No.
really need jets, and for cost and maintenance time... No, the jets are much better for what the A-10 is. Much better. They give better transit time. They're more powerful.
No, it's not that.
Okay. What is it?
Are you aware of why the A10's engines are positioned where the A10's engines are?
Yes, to avoid...
Ground fire.
Well, yes, and foreign object debris when it's operating rough field.
But as designed, A10, the bottom of the fuselage going towards the tail, has a 16mm Some claim titanium, some sources claim titanium, some claim steel plate. And the job of the heavily reinforced tail is to pre-detonate or take proxy fuse shrapnel to stop the engines getting set on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Those engines, when compared to how small their silhouette is when the aircraft's flying over you, tiny, but you can actually hit them.
Mm-hmm.
And super props, they're efficient, they are big, and they require large areas. And large areas are easy to shoot with 30mm proxy rounds.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know. In my opinion, it doesn't matter what the A10's equipped with in terms of engine. It's just, it's not, it's irrelevant because the roles it fills could be filled by other aircrafts. That's just better.
when it was designed, those did actually have there was a reason it was designed the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair,
It's
yes,
just the
there's
jets
a
are
very
more
short
survivable.
period. Yeah, there's a very, very short period of time where the A10 design makes sense. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. My issue with a turboprop A10 is that it's just why.
Honestly, yeah.
It's like, why even bother? Technically, the role of a turboprop aircraft has been overtaken by another turboprop aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Gunship, and it will infinitely deliver more DACAs than an A10 will ever deliver.
The jets are a very good idea for the A10 itself. Arguably, they're its best design feature.
Yeah,
But they're
going to
actually
places.
armored as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're much easier to armor, yes. And generally, they provide thrust at a superior level than a propeller will ever
Indeed.
will.
For their size.
Um, 1961, is a supercarrier hull too big or just right for a command ship? If you mean in terms of should a supercarrier have command and flag facilities, then no. Yes, it's not too big. It's if you have a supercarrier or a carrier in general, it should have command and flag facilities, since it will usually be at the center of a task force, possibly even the center of leading a campaign, depending on the nation's size or what's going on. But if you're talking about a dedicated command ship, then no, that's way too big. If you are just trying to build a command ship designed for coordinating a campaign, you're far better off looking at some of the Army or Navy's sea lift capacity for your basic hull. Something that should be at least plus 25 knot capable, but with plenty of room to put your command facilities, generation to generate the power you're going to need, place to put masts for uplink, with satellites, etc., redundancies. That's what you want.
Imagine trying to fit a 100,000-ton ship full of radios.
My god, can you just...
Is there enough radio in the world to fit it into that ship?
Yeah, it's like, congratulations, the radio market is fucking kill. Why? We bought them all.
It's just like, oh no, we lost this radio. Get this repairman to fix this. We'll just work with the 200,000 other radios over here, just across the room.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just...
One should not ask if. One should ask why.
Mhm.
Indeed.
Like, or what. Because if you're commanding, fuck, I don't know. If you're commanding, say, the entirety of Western Front of World War One, you'd probably need a supercarrier level of space for the staff required.
By that stage, what you really build is a floating pentagon.
Yeah.
Yes. It is very doable, by the way.
Yes, it is. We're not saying it isn't. It's just, are you sure you want your chief of staff to be floating in the middle of an ocean?
Yeah.
I guess maybe it will make an excellent platform for the president to sit in. Who knows?
Imagine drunk driving a Nimitz.
That is...
DUI.
So, Admiral Wellesley asks, how might a modernized Malta look? I'm trying to
Well.
find the Red Fleet timeline image of the modernized Maltas, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. I don't know where the hell it's gone.
Modernized Malta.
It's
When?
basically...
Basically, yeah.
I mean, I've got the full gamut of them. We made the full gamut. We made as built, rebuilt in the 60s, and then final rebuild in the 80s. We gave them the full gamut. I just can't find the damn things. I don't know where the hell they've gone. I know we had them.
Basically look at Midway and just extrapolate.
They're basically just embiggened versions of the carriers we had historically, following a similar rebuild cycle. They'll look
Pretty
very
much.
similar. They'll look very similar to how British carriers historically looked. Pretty much.
And then until it gets to the 80s when it starts rock and rolling.
Yeah,
like
we
its other
didn't.
counterpart
We
across the
didn't. We
pond.
didn't think the Maltas were going to get to that point. Given that historically British carriers also didn't. Given
Well,
we.
to be fair, once you start getting into the 80s and you're trying to turn a 50,000 ton carrier into a super carrier, it's gonna start having those issues. To
Yeah.
be fair, it is what it is. Just
Yeah. Okay, so YouTube question. Douglas Yotti 6109 asks, somewhere around 1934-36, the Germans decided to build 2 Yamato-like battleships, so they begin the infrastructure work to build
Oh,
said
boy.
ships. They still build historical surface warships. If these Bismarckos are finished somewhere around 1941-42, where would those ships be built and what would happen to them during the war? How would they affect the German war effort? How would the British react and respond to such ships when they eventually found out about them before or during their construction? What were some of the things they would do to sink them? Well, to answer the first part of the question, building the Bismarcks already was straining the size of slipways that Germany actually possessed. Building something the size and scale of the Yamatos is well beyond what Germany could realistically achieve by any point during the conflict. You'd basically have to have them build multiple generations of capital ships after the Bismarcks increasing in size before you'd get the slipways and the mature industry, both in armor plate manufacturing, gun forging, and slipways and dry docks to fit something the size of these 2 ships. The Bismarcks were basically German industry going flat out, just in terms of German naval industry, going flat out in terms of size and capability. And I mean that in every respect. Guns, armament, fire control, etc.
is there anything in France they could try and salvage and convert for their own use?
Not really. Even the dry dock built for Normandy is still not big enough.
Actually, you
Uh,
can.
But that would also mean they would have to lay these ships down in 1940-41, which means they're not going to be finished in 1941-42.
Yes,
Even if they are building
because
the
it's either that
infrastructure-
or it's either that or you're making the Germans build those slipways.
Yeah, if they're building...
Okay,
if they're-
okay, correction. No. There is one slipway If things had gone very differently, they could have had access to in this period that could build. But that requires them building these ships in Riga.
Which is owned by the Russians by the time we're talking about 1938, 39. Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
I thought they took over and fought it.
No, they took over prior to. I think it was late 39,
Is it-
40.
Right.
But also the problem I have here is also they talk about still building historical warships. Building the historical surface warships Germany was building was already tapping out their infrastructure in terms of available slipways and dry docks. And if you're going to have the infrastructure for these ships be built so they can be in service by 1941-42, then in addition to building everything else, something's got to give.
That's right. Soviets occupied Latvia in 40-41. First Soviet occupation. It was given to them as part of the partition of Poland.
So, infrastructure works. So, So, the problem is, I'm basically saying what's got to give, basically. Like, if you are going to put the money in to do this, something's got to give. In addition to also building the Scharnhorst, the Bismarcks, the Deutschlands, the Königsbergs, the destroyers, the submarines.
That's hard.
Like,
Because if you think about it, Bismarck came out, what, mid-40? Or not 40, 41.
yeah, both...
Turkish came out 42.
Well, no, both ships are in 41. Remember, the Germans
Yeah,
worked them
it's
up
somewhere
after
around
they
there.
commission, yeah. So, like, if both ships are following their historical builds, so basically, you've also, in addition to also building Bismarck and Tirpitz, you're also building another pair of monstrous capital ships at the same time.
Yamato, like, you're building technically 2 or 4, technically, since they're twice the size of Bismarck.
I mean,
most
I
likely.
suppose just the German Kriegsmarine could abandon any hope of having carriers if they put the work into expanding the slipways, regardless of cost or
I mean,
damage
Graf
to
Zeppelin
things.
is just not even
like
a thought.
if you get rid of the slipways occupied by Graf Zeppelin and her sister, and use and expand those to take these ships, then yes, you theoretically could. You'd also have to work on building the dry docks to house them as well, but that's in theory possible. If you do that as well, and then you also have to probably abandon other things as well, so I don't know, maybe Hitler goes to the Luftwaffe and goes, yeah, I'm sorry lads, this whole thing about having this Heinkel 117 project that we're just about to start, yeah, nah, sorry, the funding's going to the Navy super battleship, sorry lads, which may be a net positive overall.
There is a lot of projects they're gonna have to cut.
Yeah. But anyway, so assuming all this, so if they are built, that in let's talk about the how would they affect the German warfare? Well, first of all, fuel's going to be a problem.
Fuel's gonna be a problem.
Getting enough fuel together for sorting even stuff like Scharnhorst or Gneisenau was already a big ask. Getting fuel together for a sortie by these ships would be an even bigger ask. And in regards to how the British react, the British, unlike the Yamatos, where the Japanese were very, very good at keeping it secret, the Germans will not be. And that is going to kick off. That is going to kick off a mass. Well, even just building the infrastructure for them is going to kick off a British response. The British are just going to flat out go, yeah, first London, no, no. The government's basically just going to have to accept the 16-inch guns and the escalator clauses coming in, and that's fine. That's happening.
Actually, the British have
so
a
it
better
basically-
choice in that.
So it
They
basically,
can literally politically pressure Germany into telling them to stop.
yeah, they're not and even if they don't, like, what you've basically got is you've basically removed the advantage these ships give, because the British will hit the gas on naval rearmament 2 to 3 years early, and they'll be starting with the KGVs being basically lying.
Ironic you've got this question.
The
Right?
the KGVs will basically be lying. And their follow-ons will I'm interested to see what, because Fox is quite familiar with the lines. I'm interested to see what she thinks. So if the starting point for the KGVs, I think we can both agree, if this is the case, will probably be Lions. Like, KGV will just be a 9 16-inch armed ship capable of between 28 and 30 knots. If the British learn that the ships have 18-inch guns, which they probably will do, my question is, can they develop their own 18-inch gun quickly enough to put it on to put it on?
You don't need her.
Can I finish? Because this is it's a sort of a can they develop a gun? B, will they develop a gun? If they do develop a gun, will they put it in triples or twins on their follow-on ship? And will the follow-on ship even carry this gun, or will they just stick with better and better versions of the 16? Because I know Dr. Clark is of the opinion that if anyone else has an 18-inch gun, the British will also go for an 18-inch gun. I'm interested to hear what you think, because I'm not sure. I think they'll just stick with 16s.
Elswick already has the prototype and everything needed to put the 18-inch guns in service.
Okay, that's good. So
Please don't forget, they have an 18-inch gun that they could just build off of.
So yes,
As in Elswick have been refining the ones meant for N3, which they built a limited pre-production run of.
yeah. So the follow-ons to the King George V, which will be the Lions, will have probably 9 18s or 8 18s.
It'll be
The hard
okay. So here's the point of divergence. The Elswick guns were designed around a twin turret based off the 15-inch Vickers Mark III turret of 1925.
Right.
As far as I'm aware, and don't have to ask Dr. Clark about this, I am not aware if they designed or prototyped, as in testing the machinery of a triple 18-inch turret.
Speed will
I'm
probably
only
be.
aware of them doing the actual testing on a twin.
Speed
As
is of
far
the
as I'm aware-
essence.
Post N3, no. They mostly don't look at using triple 18s again.
And honestly, an 8 twin ship would give a ship with very clean lines, and you're probably able to keep 30 knots with these Lions.
Yeah, I was going off what I know they actually built.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
But hey, it makes sense as well. It's also, you're building a big gun, you're building a new turret. Makes sense to go with, a reliable twin, because it will also save cost as well. Because as you say, even though we don't have records, they've done some of the testing. The fact we have records for the twin means the testing was probably farther along and more substantially done and completed, which means that the twin is still probably more likely, if not certainty, to be selected. Which means that the Lions, if they have 8 18s, will they drop down to 28 knots to retain protection, or will they just get bigger and keep 30? Because then again, a ship with...
So, it is highly likely you see a generation at least with 16-inch guns.
Oh yeah, no, completely. That'll be the KGVs. The KGVs will be...
No, that
It's
aren't
a-
the KGVs.
Oh, so after them. Okay, what's your thoughts?
Because the issue is that the turrets for actual military service for the 18-inch don't exist. They're prototype and they're testing turrets, so they're testing they're essentially rigs that set up to test elevation and traversal of guns,
Right.
and basically to test, can you get them to turn with the barbette properly, and how do you do the assisted reloading system with them? Because this twin turret is meant to be assisted loading, so partially auto loading, in the same way that I was a partially auto loading. The Vickers 16-inch Mark III turret is ready to be put into service. and it's what was considered downscaled slightly to put the 15-inch Mark III, no, sorry, Mark II in the 45s.
Mm.
Oh, you would probably at least see line built with that turret. Because that's sort of, this is a testing rig stage, that's, we just need to make them for military service now.
Yeah. I mean, the Germans are basically, they've basically squandered the advantage of having these ships because they've basically, the British have, you've given the Royal Navy the ammunition it needs to go, no, we're not having 14-inch guns, no, we're not having smaller battleships, and we are massively, and the 10-year rule ends now, please, Treasury.
It's not even that. I've been doing a lot of talking to Slayer about this. It's somewhat called an escalation trap.
Yeah.
And fleets tend to get very lethargic, with very slow and incremental improvements. It's part of the reason that there was enough of a political fight in the Royal Navy to go down to 14-inch guns. Because in a world where the 14-inch guns are relevant, the fucking 15-inch 42 is relevant.
Yep.
In a world of 18-inch, the 15 inches is irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that's a game changer which starts a fire underneath Navy batters. And the British have more money than the Germans do.
And also, that's not even counting what the Americans are going to do. Because the Americans will also be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, but the Americans have a lot worse base curse. A lot worse case of lethargy politically.
Oh yeah, completely.
Because of their adoption of the 16-inch gun. The 16-inch will still be relevant against the 18. The 15 won't be.
And also, quite frankly, they're not too bothered. They're not too bothered about the Germans. They're more bothered about what the Japanese are building, and no one thinks the Yamatos have 18s at this point.
Unless you're US intelligence, then you know that, and you keep telling people, and you keep getting shot down because the Japanese can't build an 18.
Although, if the Germans are building an 18, maybe they get taken seriously?
The British would probably take it serious and probably would know.
Yeah, because if the
Fair.
Germans are building
I would
18s, then, like,
I
maybe...
would love to say that.
And to be fair, there's a problem with, just certain senators might just come up with the 16-inch versus 18-inch report from back in the 30s and be like,
Yeah.
we don't need this.
Yeah. And to be fair, once the
when it
16-inch
comes
50
to-
comes in, they are technically right.
Not really.
Not really. It's only when this super heavy Mark 8 that gets rotated in, when the 16-inch 50s really became a proper contemporary, I guess, with 18-inch guns.
The gun it's being compared to is the first generation 18-inch. By the 1940s, the Americans would be looking at a third to fourth generation 18-inch gun. With probably heavy shells. And a not copper-bound barrel. And assisted reloading. And comparable chamber pressures. Have you ever read into the metadata of that report that's used to cite that 18's just been better, 16's just been better than the 18s?
Oh,
not-
yeah.
Have you ever looked at the conditions in which the testing was done? Fleet?
I doubt he knows. I think it's better if you just tell him.
Sorry about that, my Discord crashed. What was the last thing you heard?
Did you heard the question, Fleet?
Okay.
I was just saying, you should. I doubt he knows it. You should probably just say it.
Well, The conditions the guns were tested in probably couldn't have been slanted heavier towards the 16-inch. Given the fact the 18-inch was being tested under pressure because they were doing wacky things with short range, simulating long range ballistics.
Yeah.
Which led to some really wacky results. Because one of the arguments is they actually flubbed the maps and the 18-inch was too far under pressure for its equivalency. But yeah,
And to be fair, that 18-inch guns is also relatively old.
it's an old 18-inch gun that's having the deck stacked against it. The fact it's still in the same ballpark is 18-inch guns are good, but impractical.
But yeah, so in regards to how this changes the war, so the Germans are probably going to have their 18-inch ships in service before the British do. It'll be up to the KGVs and probably the First Alliance to deal with them, which they probably still can, given they'll be using British 16-inch guns. 16-inch 50s, I think, both classes should have.
No,
No.
I thought
the British don't really use the 50 fleet.
Oh no, they were right. It was a 16-inch 45 they were working on pre-war, wasn't it? Yeah. So
Yes.
still, that's fine. That still gives. I mean, I'd still give a 28 to 30 knot 9 16-inch gun King George V decent odds against a Bismarcko. I know the
I'd give
German.
the KGV's OTL a very good chance.
Yep.
I think
agreed.
a more interesting question would be, would they build 5 KGVs?
Probably.
Yeah,
Probably
they
not.
have to.
Not necessarily. You might see the first 3. I see what's called Anson and Howe potentially being done to a different specification.
That, or do just outright
Because they
start
are
switching
they
over to line instead?
are early enough that they can do the changes needed.
Yeah. But the issue with the KGV is that it's an armor plate issue. Because if you're not aware, the armor plate for the KGVs was very long lead, even by battleship standards.
Mhm.
With a whole bunch of it having to come from the Czechs, right?
Yep.
My thought is that the armor plate, the rebuilding domestic capacity is going to go straight towards the lines. So you'd see 5 KGVs because that's what you can get off the Czechs on relatively short notice. And the Czech works aren't capable of doing anything thicker than what the KGVs already have. If that makes sense.
I'm still not sure you get the KGVs, but you probably see the KGV armor layout still. That's what I'm saying. These will be similar but different specifications.
It's not the same turrets as a KGV, the same barbettes as a KGV, and the same armor scheme of a KGV. It's a KGV.
Yeah.
Tell that to Indomitable.
Yeah.
We don't talk about Dummy Mummy.
Anyway, moving swiftly forwards.
Okay, I got a chuckle out of that one.
Right, so a few more questions, then we are going to wrap up because I have got work tomorrow, and I know it's not the full 3 hours, but I do need to do. I want to do a few little quick things for myself before I look. I should already
Clearly,
be. I should
Clearly,
already.
Fox, we have another place we can drag him to.
I already have. Look, I should already technically be winding down because I really should be in bed no later than 8 o'clock because that means I get 8 hours sleep for I wake up at 4
We
o'clock
need
in
to
the
call
morning.
her Jihad.
Shut up. Anyway, so
Jihad.
next thing is, of course, a very funny question from
Adolf Hitler.
no, from Admiral Wellesley, who asks, and I quote, directly, will Half-Life 3 ever be real? I mean, I'd argue it already has been real. Half-Life Alyx exists, which is technically the third mainline game.
Nope.
What do you mean, nope?
Half-Life Alyx is not Half-Life 3. Half-Life 3 refers to something specific.
No,
You are correct, though, that Half-Life 3 has been real. Will it ever be released is a better question.
Yeah,
And the answer's probably no.
No, the hype train has built up to such a point that, yeah.
Didn't the
Will be
creator
released.
outright said there's no point? He sees
Yeah.
no point. Yeah.
It's basically
Basically,
because the whole point of the
Hype's
Half-Life
built up to the point
games-
where he just can't match that, so what's the point doing so?
Yeah, and also Gaben said the whole point of the Half-Life series was, aside from just being, you know, the games in the story, it was also to kind of push what their genre could be. So Alyx was released because it was, you know, an ambitious game in VR, really trying to push what you could do in VR. You know, and Half-Life 1 was, you know, a FPS in full 3D. You know, really pushing what you could do with an FPS in terms of platforming and physics. Half-Life 2, again, same thing.
No. I gotta correct you. Half-Life 1, the massive development that comes from that is the use of a skeleton rig for animation. Which means that you could have computer-generated dynamic animations. They didn't have to be pre-rendered. Which is where the phase gun thing comes from. And what makes the Gold Source engine the Gold Source engine. And it redefined how the physics engine in games worked.
Right,
It was not merely an FPS thing,
yeah,
because it also revolutionized animation.
right. Fair enough. There you go. Foxo has facts for us. So, a few more questions, and then we are going to wrap up for tonight. Knight 6831. Go on. Go on.
Okay, from Gaben himself, we will only get Half-Life 3 when there is the possibility of a step change in video gaming, like the previous two Half-Lives were. Which is the reason why Alyx was the first proper large AAA game in VR. Where a lot of the rest ones, games like Boneworks and Help Wanted, were all more tech demos than actual games, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense, yeah.
And we know that Half-Life is Valve's way of going, fuck it, this is cool tech, we're going to put it in a AAA game. And we'll see Half-Life 3 when that sort of change occurs.
Yeah, fair enough. Right. Okay, so next question. 1981. As Z25's French self-host has been announced for World of Warships, will you play her when she comes out? I don't play Azur Lane, so probably not, no.
Well done for your reading comprehension.
Oh, but I also don't play World of Warships either, so no. No, I don't. I know, I don't play World of Warships either, but... Yeah, so no, I still won't play her. Yeah, my fleet fails reading competition, asks to leave ramblings. Admiral Wellesley.
Leave ramblings. Well, chop chop.
Admiral Wellesley, Insanity 2 asks,
Viva la Revolution.
which captain would you like to serve under in Star Trek? Picard, easily.
Yeah, he's the one most likely to get me home.
Yeah.
And he's actually,
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, but you can't commit war crimes with him
That's
like you can with
okay
Janeway.
in my book. Janeway's not even committing war crimes.
No.
Janeway's just committing crimes against humanity.
No, the war...
Crimes just
Yeah,
in general. Crimes against
Picard
humanity.
would be boring. Janeway would be
Crimes
funny.
against
but
humanity.
I
you'd
also
end up
get
in
to
the hate.
serve on a galaxy. It's like we got a cruise ship, but in space, that also shoots things.
You're also lazy and unoriginal. Like,
Look, they asked what captain I'd like to serve under in Star Trek. Not, like, I'm sorry, if I'm going to serve under anybody doing anything, like, I'm sorry, I'm taking the galaxy any day of the week. Douglas
And
Yacht...
before
Yeah.
you ended up serving on
Boring.
Sovereign instead.
Yeah.
Boring.
Okay,
Or
where are
maybe
you going,
even on the
Foxo?
Stargazer.
I'm going on the
On the
Janeway.
Constellation.
Congratulations.
Janeway actually does
Possibly.
interesting stuff.
Congratulations, you are stuck in the
Very,
middle of bumfuck
very
nowhere.
debatable and interesting.
It's good. Serve under Archer.
No, thank you.
That would be funny.
Douglas Yachty 6109 asks, in Uma Musume, all horses are horse girls. Same strength as a horse in the body of a human. The panel must pick a famous cavalry battle and imagine how it would go in the Uma Musume universe. I mean, Uma Musume Agincourt, anybody?
No.
No? Come on. Think a bigger scale.
Charge of the Light Brigade.
That would be funny.
No.
No.
I'm more thinking. Oh, I don't know. Imagine
Austrian, perhaps?
Attila the Hun with an army of horse girls.
Yeah, but
Wouldn't that just
Polish
mean
Hussar
that
horse
Attila
girls.
would have a giant harem?
What do you mean? What do you mean you don't want to watch a bunch of Turks get murdered by Polish horse girls? And more importantly, like what, 30,000 of them?
Yeah.
To be
I've
fair,
got a better one.
go for it.
World War One, the Aussies at Toshiba. I want to hear what an Australian horse girl sounds like.
That would be...
Honestly, war in the Umamusue universe is such a fucking wacky concept, mostly because the concept of cavalry just outright honestly will disappear
Yeah.
when
You'll
gun exists.
You'll use the Umas as heavy infantry carrying heavy weapons. Because that's what they can
Not
do.
just heavy infantry, heavy shock infantry. They will outmaneuver any infantry formation or standard infantry formation out there.
Yes. Yes, they
In
probably
fact, it might actually get to the point where it's very questionable whether you would have actual human infantry.
like men don't serve in the army anymore. It's just women. Because they're literally physically more capable.
It's just horse girls. They will move faster. They will carry shit faster. They will move more shit. And they are just humans, except with horse ears and a tail.
So we've not been playing the humans on the battlefield.
Women.
Well, I'm not saying they won't.
You
I'm
don't
just
need to
merely
be
saying.
strong to sit there and a machine gun.
True.
Yeah, I'm just saying. When you get into the industrial era, that's probably when the balance of power starts swing back towards the human side in terms of it's not too
Also,
difficult for it to
It
sit in.
depends. Can Kanonen frighten scare off Usamune as it would an actual horse?
Probably
No.
not.
Sadly, no. They are
Damn it.
basically just they are not their horse attribute is not as prevalent. They are very much just humans that could pull more, run faster, you know.
Yeah.
Been reading about the 100 Years' War, and that time both several times the British and the French use early siege cannons, not as weapons but as loud bangs to scare off horses
This happens on a
and break
shockingly
up
regular
cavalry
basis.
charges.
Yeah. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, everybody, for coming.
Panzer Kanonen.
I hope you all enjoyed. Obviously, tomorrow is the Rule the Wave stream, so tune in for that if you are a Twitch enjoyer. If you're not, then obviously I'll hopefully see you all on Friday for catch up ramblings. If work doesn't if I'm not absolutely shattered by that point, but we'll see. but at least I am now seemingly in the habit of remembering to tell people that I am shattered beforehand. So, yippee, hopefully that will be a thing that continues. Actual basic common
baby
sense.
step.
Yeah, so one small step at a time. We will get there. But yeah, so thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Foxo, Dragon, Moe, and for the last minute appearance of the Dutchman! Also known as the guy that
Ye-
everyone happens to like.
I don't.
Shocking, the name is false.
Ouch.
Wow.
I think he's smelly and he's
Rude.
Wow, shocking. How will we beat these
And
allegations?
I think he should go back to being Danish.
What?
I liked him better when I thought he was Danish.
Okay, anyway, and on that bombshell, it is time to end.